What if some of the greatest achievements of humanity were never meant to be fully understood? Across the centuries, countless artifacts, structures, and events have emerged, silent witnesses to a past that refuses to reveal all its secrets. From colossal stone monuments aligned with the stars in ways we still cannot explain, to cryptic texts whose meanings elude even the sharpest minds, history is littered with enigmas that defy logic and challenge our understanding of the world. Imagine wandering through a shadowed ruin, tracing your fingers over carvings that have survived millennia, wondering who crafted them and why. Picture discoveries so baffling that even the most advanced technology cannot decode their origins, leaving us with more questions than answers. Why were these structures built with such precision? What knowledge was lost to time? And what stories lie buried beneath layers of dust and silence? Tonight, we step into the shadows of the past, following trails that lead to the unknown. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the most compelling historical mysteries that continue to haunt and inspire the world today. Along the arid stretches of the Atacama Desert, where the wind sculpts the sand into endless silent waves, there lies a secret that predates the pyramids, predates written history itself. Here, in one of the harshest landscapes on Earth, ancient people practiced a ritual unlike any other. A ritual that preserved the dead long before the Egyptians began to embalm their pharaohs. These are the Chinchorro Mummies, some of the oldest artificially preserved human remains ever discovered, dating back more than 7,000 years. The first encounter with these mummies is arresting. Unlike the more familiar Egyptian examples, the Chinchorro did not reserve this process for the elite. Here, the young and the old, infants and adults alike, were meticulously prepared. Their bodies transformed in ways that suggest a profound reverence for life and death. Skin was removed and replaced with clay. Organs were sometimes extracted and replaced with reeds or sticks, and faces were often coated in black or red pigment. The attention to detail is both intimate and unsettling, as though the dead were being guided back into the world of the living, or perhaps into some other realm altogether. Archaeologists have pieced together much of the process. They know the mummies were carefully dried and treated, sometimes reinforced with plant fibers to preserve their form. Scientific analysis has revealed remarkable consistency in the techniques, indicating that these methods were passed down through generations, becoming a defining cultural practice for the Chinchorro people. Yet, for all our understanding, the deeper motives behind this practice remain elusive. Why did a society so small and fragile, living in an unforgiving desert with limited resources, devote so much time and energy to preserving the dead? Some scholars suggest it was a response to the precariousness of life in such a harsh environment. Perhaps death was not an end, but a continuation of existence, a belief woven into the fabric of their daily survival. Others have pointed to a social or spiritual dimension, arguing that the act of mummification could have reinforced communal bonds, giving meaning and structure to a life threatened constantly by the elements. But if these were the reasons, why such extraordinary care for even the youngest children, or the most vulnerable members of the community? There is an intimacy in the way the mummies were prepared, a tenderness that suggests something beyond mere ritual. The mummies themselves are enigmatic. In the blackened clay masks of infants, some see abstract artistry, almost haunting in its abstraction. Others detect deliberate patterns in the positioning of limbs or the coloration of pigments. Could these be symbolic representations, messages intended for the living or the dead? There is no definitive answer, only the subtle clues left behind in the contours of clay and pigment. Even more curious are the gaps in our knowledge. For millennia, these mummies lay hidden beneath layers of sand and soil, largely untouched and largely unknown. When archaeologists began uncovering them in the 20th century, they realized that the Chinchorro predated many other known mummification practices by thousands of years, challenging our assumptions about the origins of human ritual and cultural sophistication. How did such advanced methods arise in a society so remote, so seemingly isolated from the broader currents of early human civilization? Some fringe theories have emerged, drawn by the sheer peculiarity of these mummies. Could they represent contact with an unknown or lost knowledge? Could the meticulousness of their preparation hint at a spiritual understanding of life and death far beyond our own? These ideas remain speculative, but they underscore the enduring mystery. The Chinchorro mummies resist simple explanation. They exist in a liminal space between the known and the unknown, a testament to human ingenuity and a silent question posed across the millennia. What adds to their intrigue is not only their age, but their resilience. Millennia of desert winds, fluctuating temperatures, and environmental extremes have left them remarkably intact. They are physical whispers of a people who, despite leaving no written records, communicated something profound about mortality, memory, and perhaps even identity. When researchers examine these mummies today, they are confronted not just with human remains, but with echoes of a consciousness that sought to preserve itself against the inexorable march of time. Walking through the sparse museums where the Chinchorro are now displayed, one is struck by the stillness, the quiet dignity of these ancient lives. Each face, each carefully reconstructed body, tells a story of devotion, of ritual, and of mystery. There are no simple answers, no final interpretations. Science can illuminate the materials and methods. Anthropology can speculate on the cultural context, yet the ultimate why remains beyond reach. And so, as we peer into the desolate expanse of the Atacama, as we study the blackened faces and clay-reinforced forms, we are invited to wonder. What drove a people so distant from our modern world to embrace death in such an intimate, transformative way? What beliefs, fears, or hopes compelled them to spend their lives crafting these silent guardians of memory? Perhaps some mysteries are meant to remain unresolved, not to frustrate, but to remind us of the depth and complexity of human experience, and of the secrets still waiting beneath the sand, patiently enduring across thousands of years. As the sands of the Atacama slowly give way to windswept mesas and towering canyon walls, we leave the oldest mummies of the world behind and turn our attention to a different kind of human marvel, one carved not from the earth itself, but into it. Nestled high in the cliff faces of the southwestern Colorado Plateau lies the Cliff Palace of Mesa Verde, a sprawling complex of stone and timber that seems at once impossibly perched and intimately hidden within the canyon's natural alcoves. From a distance, the structure blends seamlessly with the jagged cliffs, as if the canyon itself had decided to cradle a city within its folds. Up close, the details are staggering. Carefully fitted sandstone blocks, wooden beams that have withstood centuries of weathering, and a labyrinth of rooms and towers that suggest planning, community, and purpose far beyond the ordinary. Archaeologists trace the origins of this remarkable site to the ancestral Puebloans, who inhabited the region from roughly 600 to 1300 CE. Cliff Palace, the largest cliff dwelling discovered to date, is estimated to contain over 150 rooms and 20 kivas, circular subterranean chambers believed to have held ceremonial significance. The craftsmanship is meticulous. Each stone was shaped and placed with a precision that speaks of skill, patience, and a deep understanding of the environment. Even the positioning of the dwellings within the alcoves reflects a sophisticated adaptation to the canyon's microclimate. Sunlight, wind patterns, and seasonal temperature variations all appear to have influenced the construction. Yet, for all the knowledge we have gleaned from archaeological study, the Cliff Palace remains enigmatic. Why did the ancestral Puebloans choose such an extreme and seemingly inaccessible location for such a significant settlement? The logistics of transporting building materials, maintaining crops, and sustaining life in these vertical cliffs challenge our understanding of what was possible in that era. Was the choice driven by defense, by a desire to retreat from conflict, or by spiritual beliefs tied to the towering cliffs themselves? Perhaps it was all of these, or perhaps there is another reason that eludes modern interpretation entirely. Walking the narrow ledges that wind past these ancient walls, one cannot help but be struck by the interplay of human ingenuity and natural architecture. Some rooms are so well integrated into the alcove overhangs that they appear almost organic, extensions of the rock itself. Scholars have noted the way light filters through specific openings, illuminating interiors in patterns that may have marked ceremonies or seasonal events. Could the builders have possessed knowledge of astronomy or celestial cycles that guided the design of their homes and ceremonial spaces? There is evidence that the ancestral Puebloans tracked the sun and moon for agricultural and ritual purposes, but the full extent of their understanding and how it may have informed Cliff Palace remains open to interpretation. The mysteries deepen when we consider the abrupt abandonment of Mesa Verde around the late 13th century. Archaeological evidence suggests a rapid exodus, yet there are few signs of struggle or conflict. Pottery, tools, and personal belongings were left behind, almost as if the residents departed in haste, or perhaps as part of a planned migration. What prompted this departure? Was it prolonged drought, depletion of local resources, social unrest, or pressures from neighboring groups? Or was there an even more intangible force at play? A collective decision guided by cultural or spiritual imperatives that we can only speculate upon. Some researchers have explored the possibility that the cliff dwellings served not merely as homes, but as sanctuaries. The elevated location would have offered strategic protection from potential invaders, but it may also have created a psychological or ceremonial separation from the world below. In this interpretation, the dwellings themselves become part of a larger cosmology, a landscape imbued with meaning that shaped every aspect of daily life. There is evidence that certain rooms were reserved for ritual activity, with carefully placed hearths, benches, and niche spaces that may have framed sacred objects or gatherings. And yet, without written records, the full significance of these spaces remains tantalizingly out of reach. The very scale of Cliff Palace invites speculation. How did a society without the wheel, draft animals, or modern construction tools manage to raise multi-story buildings along vertical cliff faces? How were timbers hoisted, stones shaped, and walls stabilized with such precision? Even when considering communal effort and ingenuity, the logistics are formidable. Some fringe theories suggest lost techniques or knowledge now vanished to time, but even mainstream archaeology emphasizes the remarkable coordination, social organization, and resilience required to construct these dwellings. Each layer of stone, each beam placed within the alcove, speaks of planning and purpose, and yet the deeper motives remain a mystery that resonates across centuries. There is also a quiet poetry to the site, a sense that the builders understood something fundamental about permanence and impermanence. Though centuries of wind, rain, and temperature shifts have worn the stone, much of the structure remains. It is both fragile and enduring, a monument not only to human skill, but to the passage of time. Visitors often describe a strange feeling of connection, as though the cliffs themselves hold memory, echoing the lives of those who once moved within these spaces. What stories did they tell in the flickering light of a fire? What decisions, small and large, shaped the trajectory of an entire community perched hundreds of feet above the canyon floor? As we trace the ledges and peer into the shadows of Cliff Palace, it becomes clear that some questions resist definitive answers. The architecture, the positioning, the sudden departure, all of it points to a people both grounded in their environment and reaching beyond it, guided by knowledge, belief, and necessity in equal measure. Perhaps, like the Chinchorro Mummies far to the south, these dwellings represent an intimate dialogue with mortality, survival, and memory, a desire to leave something enduring, even when the future is uncertain. And so, as the afternoon sun casts long shadows across the stone, we are left with a profound sense of wonder. What truths remain hidden within these alcoves and rooms, waiting silently beneath centuries of dust and history? How much of the ancestral Puebloans' knowledge, their motivations, and their worldview will forever elude us, locked away within the cliffs themselves? The Cliff Palace of Mesa Verde stands not only as a testament to human ingenuity, but as a quiet invitation to continue exploring, questioning, and marveling at the mysteries of our past. As the sun dips behind the cliffs of the American Southwest, leaving long shadows in the alcoves of Mesa Verde, our journey of human ingenuity and mystery takes us across continents and millennia to the vast plains of the Indus Valley. Here, in what is now modern-day Pakistan, lies the enigmatic ruins of Mohenjo-Daro, one of the world's earliest urban settlements, a city that thrived over 4,000 years ago and yet vanished almost without a trace. Unlike the vertical dwellings of Mesa Verde, Mohenjo-Daro sprawls across the flat riverbanks, its streets laid out in precise grids, its structures built of standardized fired bricks. From above, the city once must have appeared remarkably ordered, a testament to planning, coordination, and a vision of urban life that seems astonishingly advanced for its time. The scale of Mohenjo-Daro immediately commands attention. Archaeologists estimate that tens of thousands of people once lived within its walls, which were organized into sectors of residential, commercial, and ceremonial significance. Streets intersect at right angles, drains and sewers run systematically beneath the city, and large public structures, what some believe were granaries or assembly halls, suggest a society capable of complex administration and foresight. Here, in the remnants of wells, bathhouses, and courtyards, we glimpse a civilization that valued hygiene, communal infrastructure, and an organized social framework far earlier than most historians once believed possible. Yet, the city's brilliance is shadowed by questions that remain unanswered. How did the Indus Valley civilization, known for its sophistication, rise to such prominence and then disappear so completely? Unlike other ancient cities that fell due to conquest or recorded calamity, Mohenjo-Daro seems to have been abandoned gradually, leaving behind streets, homes, and possessions as if its people had simply vanished. What could have prompted such a sudden retreat? Environmental change, shifting river courses, or prolonged drought have all been suggested, but none of these explanations fully account for the scale and suddenness of the abandonment. Walking through the ruins today, the meticulousness of construction stands out. Every brick is uniform in size, suggesting standards and regulations. Streets are meticulously aligned, with drainage systems running alongside each lane, channeling water efficiently into larger sewer networks. The so-called Great Bath, a massive waterproofed pool at the heart of the city, hints at ceremonial or communal practices whose purpose remains largely speculative. Was this a site of spiritual purification, a symbol of civic pride, or perhaps a ritual space now lost to time? The lack of decipherable written records leaves these questions tantalizingly open, as we can only infer meaning from form and placement rather than explicit explanation. Equally mysterious are the artifacts scattered across the site. Figurines, pottery, seals with enigmatic inscriptions, and small statues point to a culture rich in artistry and symbolism. Many of the seals depict animals, mythological motifs, or figures engaged in ritualized activity, but the language and symbolism remain undeciphered, leaving their significance an open question. What stories did these people tell? What beliefs guided their daily lives, their governance, their interactions with neighbors? Every object hints at knowledge and culture, yet speaks in a code we have not fully cracked. One of the most striking enigmas of Mohenjo-Daro is its apparent absence of overt fortifications. Unlike many contemporary civilizations, the city lacks large defensive walls designed to repel invaders. Was this an indication of a peaceful society, confident in its security and stability? Or did the people rely on natural barriers and social cohesion, an understanding of human behavior that allowed them to thrive without military architecture? The absence of evidence in itself becomes a question. What did the citizens of Mohenjo-Daro know that we cannot yet comprehend? Some fringe theories suggest the city may have been abandoned due to extraordinary or catastrophic events, shifts in climate, seismic activity, or even unexplained phenomena, but mainstream archaeology emphasizes environmental and economic explanations, pointing to the Indus River's changing course or the gradual depletion of resources. Still, the more we study Mohenjo-Daro, the more it resists easy classification. Each new excavation, each fragment uncovered, adds depth to our understanding but also raises further questions. The urban planning alone is staggering. Streets are wide and straight, houses constructed with uniform bricks, and yet interiors show diversity, with rooms arranged to accommodate both communal and private life. Evidence of complex trade networks, pottery styles, and materials traceable to distant regions suggests a city not isolated, but engaged with a broader civilization. How was this level of organization achieved in an age without modern technology, without wheeled transport or written bureaucratic systems that we might recognize? And if such sophistication existed, why did it vanish, leaving behind only ruins to puzzle future generations? Standing amid the crumbling walls and weathered bricks, there is a strange intimacy to Mohenjo-Daro. It was once a living, breathing city. Children playing in courtyards, merchants trading goods in the streets, families gathering around hearths. Today, silence dominates, and yet the city speaks in subtle ways, through the alignment of streets, the uniformity of bricks, the remnants of a society that achieved remarkable order and then disappeared. Like the cliff dwellings of Mesa, Verde, or the mummified remains of the Chinchorro, Mohenjo-Daro invites reflection not only on human ingenuity, but on impermanence, the delicate balance between civilization and oblivion. And so, as the desert winds whisper through the ruins and the sun casts long shadows across the ancient streets, we are left with enduring questions. What was the true nature of life in Mohenjo-Daro? What knowledge, beliefs, and practices have been lost to time? And above all, why did such a remarkable city vanish so completely, leaving behind only traces of human brilliance to puzzle and inspire those who came after? The lost city holds its secrets with quiet dignity, a challenge to our curiosity, inviting us to ponder the mysteries that remain buried beneath sand, soil, and centuries of silence. From the meticulously planned streets of Mohenjo-Daro, where human ingenuity once harmonized with the flow of a great river, our journey now takes us to the highlands of South America, to a place where stone itself seems to defy explanation. Nestled near the modern city of Tiwanaku in Bolivia, the ruins of Puma Punku rise from the earth like the remnants of a civilization that spoke a language of stone and precision. The sun glints off massive blocks of andesite and red sandstone, some weighing over 100 tons, arranged in ways that hint at mastery of engineering, yet resist full comprehension even today. From a distance, Puma Punku resembles a giant puzzle, its colossal stones scattered across terraces and platforms, some perfectly interlocking, others mysteriously fragmented, leaving observers to wonder how they were moved, shaped, and assembled. Archaeologists date Puma Punku to around 500 to 600 CE, attributing its construction to the Tiwanaku culture, which thrived in the Andean highlands. Excavations reveal a complex of terraces, platforms, and foundations, with precisely cut stones featuring right angles, perfectly straight edges, and grooves that interlock with astonishing exactitude. Some blocks are so precisely shaped that even a modern diamond saw would struggle to achieve such uniformity. The craftsmanship suggests advanced knowledge of geometry, tools, and construction techniques, yet the absence of definitive records leaves many questions unanswered. How did a civilization without iron tools or modern machinery manage to move and shape stones of such magnitude? And why did they abandon this extraordinary site, leaving it to crumble slowly over centuries? The scale and precision of Puma Punku have long fascinated researchers. Certain blocks bear intricate patterns of cuts and channels, some forming right angles with millimeter-level accuracy. Holes drilled through the stones, often perfectly cylindrical, suggest a mastery of techniques rarely attributed to ancient cultures. The placement of these blocks hints at a deliberate design, one that may have been both structural and symbolic. Was Puma Punku a ceremonial center, a hub of spiritual or astronomical significance, or a combination of both? And if so, what knowledge guided its construction? Knowledge that seems almost beyond the capabilities of its time. The fragmented state of Puma Punku today only deepens the mystery. Many massive blocks lie overturned or split, as if a sudden event, whether natural or man-made, disrupted the site. Some scholars propose seismic activity, floods, or erosion as explanations, yet the precise, deliberate nature of the cuts remains unexplained. Even in ruins, the precision of each stone hints at a lost expertise, a level of engineering skill that challenges our assumptions about the technological abilities of pre-Columbian civilizations. Adding to the intrigue are the questions of transportation and logistics. Some of the stones, quarried from sites several kilometers away, weighed dozens of tons. Moving them across uneven terrain, without wheels or draft animals, would have required extraordinary planning, labor, and ingenuity. Did the Tiwanaku develop techniques we have not yet reconstructed, or does Puma Punku hint at a broader, more complex understanding of engineering that has since vanished? The site is a puzzle in both form and context, a silent testament to human ambition and innovation. Fringe theories have emerged over the years, drawn to the apparent impossibility of the construction. Some suggest lost technologies or external influence. Others propose astronomical alignments embedded within the site's layout. While mainstream archaeology cautions against such speculation, it acknowledges the undeniable fact. Puma Punku's precision is extraordinary. Every perfectly cut stone, every interlocking block, every groove carved with such care invites reflection on what was possible in an era long before modern machinery. The spiritual and ceremonial significance of Puma Punku is equally compelling. Tiwanaku culture left no written records, yet the scale and arrangement of the site imply profound ritual and symbolic intent. Certain blocks appear to have been placed according to sight lines, angles, or alignments with the surrounding landscape. Could these have marked solstices, equinoxes, or other celestial events? Did the builders encode knowledge of astronomy, cosmology, or mathematics into the very stones themselves? Without the ability to ask the people who built Puma Punku, these questions remain open, whispered through the grooves, edges, and terraces of the site. Even today, the stones communicate a quiet power. Walking among the ruins, one is struck by the sense that Puma Punku is more than the sum of its blocks. It is a testament to human ambition and skill, a record of creativity that challenges assumptions about the past. The scattered fragments, the impossibly precise cuts, and the sheer scale of the site compel us to reconsider what ancient societies were capable of achieving. It is a place where mystery is embedded in every stone, where every terrace, platform, and groove tells a story of knowledge, intention, and perhaps even lost wisdom. And yet, as we trace the lines of these massive stones and imagine the hands that shaped them, we are left with enduring questions. What drove the Tiwanaku to undertake such an immense endeavor, and what caused them to abandon it? How were the stones quarried, transported, and positioned with such precision? And perhaps most intriguingly, what knowledge, skill, or insight did Puma Punku's builders possess that has been lost to time? As the highland wind sweeps across the terraces, carrying the echoes of centuries, Puma Punku stands silent, a monumental challenge to our curiosity. It reminds us that even in an age of satellite mapping and modern engineering, the past retains secrets we have yet to unravel. The site beckons not with answers, but with questions. Questions that invite us to explore, to wonder, and to marvel at the ingenuity and mystery of human history. From the precise terraces and monumental stones of Puma Punku, where ancient hands sculpted earth and rock into a testament to ingenuity, our journey takes us thousands of miles across deserts and rivers to the cradle of civilization itself, the fertile lands of Mesopotamia. Here, rising from the plains between the Tigris and Euphrates, stand the remnants of the Ziggurats, colossal stepped structures that once pierced the sky, commanding attention from miles around. These architectural marvels, constructed from mud brick and baked brick, are more than simple platforms. They are the legacy of a culture striving to reach toward the heavens, a civilization that blended religion, politics, and engineering in ways that continue to baffle modern observers. The largest and most famous of these, the Great Ziggurat of Ur, impresses even in ruin. Its massive terraces, originally rising in multiple tiers, were designed with meticulous care, with broad stairways and sloping walls that create a visual rhythm both grand and enigmatic. Archaeologists have found traces of temples atop these structures, suggesting they were sacred spaces, places where priests and rulers might commune with deities, offer sacrifices, or oversee rituals of immense cultural significance. Yet, despite centuries of study, the deeper purpose of the ziggurats remains a subject of debate. Were they merely ceremonial centers, or did their construction encode knowledge, astronomical, mathematical, or spiritual, that has since been lost? Construction alone raises profound questions. How did ancient Mesopotamians, with limited technology compared to today's standards, move vast quantities of mud brick, shape precise terraces, and maintain stability over such massive structures? Unlike the stone blocks of Puma Punku or the carefully aligned bricks of Mohenjo-Daro, mud brick is a material that erodes quickly, yet these ziggurats endured centuries of weather, neglect, and human intervention. Their survival is a testament not only to ingenuity, but to an understanding of materials, climate, and construction techniques that modern engineers still admire. The placement and alignment of ziggurats further invite curiosity. Many were oriented toward celestial phenomena, rising and setting points of the sun, phases of the moon, or the paths of planets. Could these alignments have served practical purposes, such as calendrical systems for agriculture? Or were they symbolic, intended to bridge earth and sky, the human and the divine? In some ziggurats, evidence of carefully measured angles and uniform terraces suggests knowledge of geometry and planning that seems surprisingly advanced, particularly for a society that left no detailed written explanations of their architectural principles. The function of ziggurats as centers of ritual and governance also hints at social complexity. These structures were not merely religious monuments. They were hubs of economic, administrative, and political activity. Goods were stored in chambers within or near the ziggurat. Official decrees and trade records were often maintained in proximity, and their elevated platforms allowed rulers and priests to oversee both ceremonies and civic life. Yet, despite all these clues, there remains an aura of mystery. The inner workings of daily life on these terraces, the specific rituals performed, and the symbolic meaning of their design are still largely unknown. One of the most intriguing aspects of ziggurats is the precision of their construction. Bricks were often standardized in size, allowing for uniform layers, and mortar and bitumen were used with skill to ensure longevity. Some structures feature intricate drainage systems and retaining walls, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of engineering principles. Even the choice of location, often near rivers or trade routes, reflects strategic thinking. And yet, many details remain unexplained. Why certain terraces are wider than others? Why some staircases were monumental while others were narrow? And why the most sacred spaces were elevated so dramatically above the surrounding city? Speculation abounds, not to sensationalize, but to explore the unanswered questions these structures provoke. Some researchers suggest that ziggurats were intentionally designed to be monumental statements, asserting power and divine connection over the people and the land. Others point to potential astronomical functions, proposing that the structures served as observatories, aligning with solstices, equinoxes, or planetary cycles in ways that would have guided ritual and agricultural practices. Fringe theories sometimes propose even more esoteric interpretations, from encoded cosmological knowledge to lost technologies. But even mainstream archaeology acknowledges that the ziggurat's full meaning remains tantalizingly out of reach. Walking through the ruins today, one is struck by their presence. The stepped platforms, though eroded, still dominate the landscape, offering a sense of scale and intention that transcends millennia. Imagine the priests and rulers who ascended these terraces, the rituals performed at the summit, the city below alive with activity. Each brick and layer carries not only the weight of stone and mud, but the weight of belief, ambition, and human ingenuity. The ziggurats were more than architecture. They were symbols of a civilization striving to understand its place in the cosmos, to reach beyond the limits of the earthly realm. And yet, as the wind sweeps across the plains of ancient Sumer, Akkad, and Babylon, questions linger. How much did the builders know about the universe that we have yet to understand? What daily practices, spiritual beliefs, or technological skills allowed them to create such enduring structures? And perhaps most compelling of all, what truths have been lost with the passing of time, buried beneath layers of sand, brick, and history? The ziggurats stand silently, monumental and enduring, inviting us not to seek immediate answers, but to marvel at their ingenuity and to wonder at the mysteries that remain. Like Puma Punku, Mohenjo-Daro, and Mesa Verde, they remind us that the past holds knowledge and purpose that can challenge, inspire, and perplex, even millennia after the last hand laid the final brick. In the shadows of these ancient terraces, the mystery remains, waiting for those who dare to explore, question, and imagine the world as it once was. From the monumental terraces of Mesopotamia's ziggurats, where mud brick platforms once reached toward the heavens, our exploration moves into the realm of recorded memory, into the quiet, enduring inscriptions of an ancient civilization. Buried in clay tablets, the Sumerian king list emerges as one of the most enigmatic records of the ancient world. At first glance, it appears straightforward, a list of kings, their cities, and the lengths of their reigns. Yet, the deeper one delves, the more questions arise, and the more the line between history, legend, and mystery begins to blur. The tablets themselves are unassuming. Simple lines of cuneiform script pressed into clay, each character carefully etched, each entry deliberate. The earliest known copies date to around 2100 BCE, yet the list purports to chronicle rulers from a time before the flood, a period whose duration stretches into the tens of thousands of years. In these early sections, kings are said to have ruled for tens of thousands of years each, their reigns almost unimaginably long by modern standards. The shift to more realistic reign lengths occurs gradually, as the list moves closer to eras corroborated by archaeological evidence. This blend of the fantastical and the plausible immediately captures attention. What purpose did such a list serve, and why record rulers in such extraordinary terms? Historically, scholars have seen the Sumerian king list as an effort to unify disparate city-states under a single narrative, a way of legitimizing authority by linking rulers across centuries and regions. Cities like Eridu, Uruk, and Kish appear repeatedly, their prominence shifting as dynasties rose and fell. The list seems to reflect a deep cultural memory, one that preserves both political continuity and mythological significance. Yet the inclusion of impossibly long reigns cannot be explained solely by political record-keeping. Were these exaggerations symbolic, emphasizing divine favor, cosmic order, or the semi-mythical nature of early rulers? Or did they hint at a lost understanding of time, history, or even cosmology, encoded within these clay lines? The narrative of the Sumerian king list becomes even more compelling when considered alongside archaeological evidence. Excavations in cities such as Uruk and Kish have revealed layers of urban development that align with some of the historical kings mentioned. Yet gaps remain, and much of the early list exists only in text, without corroborating physical evidence. Why preserve a record of kings who cannot be confirmed by material culture? And why include the dramatic shift from impossibly long reigns to plausible, verifiable rulers? These choices suggest intentionality, a deliberate merging of myth and history, yet the reasoning behind it is lost to time. Some researchers have proposed that the Sumerian king list preserves echoes of collective memory, oral traditions that were finally codified into writing. Perhaps the extraordinary reigns symbolize eras of stability or divine favor, rather than literal lifespans. Others suggest more speculative possibilities. Could these early kings reflect encounters with extraordinary beings, or even an allegorical understanding of humanity's relationship with the cosmos? The text itself offers no answers, only the silent, careful recording of names, places, and durations that invite contemplation. What adds to the mystery is the consistency of the list across multiple copies discovered in different locations and periods. Despite variations in detail, the overall structure remains intact, a testament to the importance of this record in Sumerian culture. It was clearly copied, preserved, and revered over centuries. Yet the rationale behind the extraordinary reigns continues to defy explanation. Were these lists tools of religious or ceremonial significance meant to reinforce divine authority? Or were they practical instruments of governance, connecting the rulers of multiple city-states into a coherent framework? Perhaps they were all of these things at once. The Sumerian king list also raises questions about the nature of ancient knowledge. The early reigns, spanning tens of thousands of years, challenge our understanding of time and human perception in antiquity. Were the lengths of these reigns symbolic, encoded in numerological or calendrical systems now lost to us? Could the ancient scribes have understood a different measure of time, one that makes these durations meaningful in ways modern observers struggle to grasp? Every line of the tablet, every cuneiform character, feels like a deliberate choice, a hint of a worldview that we glimpse but cannot fully comprehend. There is a quiet poetry in these tablets. Imagine the scribes pressing each character into wet clay, recording the names and reigns of rulers who had long since become legends. Each entry represents memory, authority, and continuity, a bridge between myth and reality. Even as we decode their meanings, we confront the unknowable, the intentions behind the extraordinary lifespans, the decisions that guided which rulers were included, and the wisdom or belief systems that shaped the compilation. The king list is not merely a document. It is a window into the mind of a civilization that sought to preserve its past, understand its present, and project its authority into the future. And so, as we trace the lines of cuneiform and consider the cities and rulers it chronicles, we are confronted with enduring questions. Were the early kings literal figures, allegorical symbols, or something in between? What truths about Sumerian society, cosmology, and spirituality lie hidden in these tablets, waiting to be understood? And perhaps most compelling of all, what other fragments of human memory, recorded in clay, stone, or oral tradition, might still remain undiscovered, holding secrets that could transform our understanding of the ancient world? The Sumerian king list sits quietly in museums and archives, unassuming yet profound, offering glimpses of the past while preserving its mysteries. Like the Ziggurats it records, it is both a monument and a puzzle, a testament to human ambition, memory, and curiosity. It invites us not only to study history, but to wonder at the unknowable, to imagine the lost knowledge, and to confront the mysteries that continue to echo across the millennia. From the clay tablets of Sumer, where kings' names and impossible reigns were etched into history, we now travel across continents and millennia to the vast, silent expanse of the Sahara Desert. Here, hidden among jagged rock formations and windswept plateaus, lie the cave paintings of Tassili, a world of color and movement frozen in stone, whispering stories of a past that challenges our understanding of early human life. Nestled in Algeria, these prehistoric galleries stretch for miles, a labyrinth of shelters and overhangs adorned with images that date back more than 12,000 years. Some scholars suggest even further. The paintings are immediately striking. Vivid reds, blacks, and yellows form scenes of humans, animals, and enigmatic figures, capturing motion, ritual, and perhaps ideas we can barely begin to interpret. The scale and variety of the artwork are astonishing. Herds of cattle and antelope dash across the walls. Human figures are shown dancing, hunting, and engaging in ceremonies that hint at complex social structures and belief systems. Some figures are elongated or stylized, limbs flowing in ways that suggest more than mere representation, perhaps expression, imagination, or symbolism. Among the recognizable are shapes and forms that seem almost alien, humanoid figures with elongated heads, animals that do not correspond to known species, or scenes whose purpose is entirely opaque. Were these symbolic, spiritual, or purely artistic expressions? Or do they carry coded messages about a culture whose memory has long since vanished? Archaeologists believe that the Tassili paintings span multiple eras, documenting the dramatic transformation of the Sahara from a fertile landscape to the desert we know today. Water sources, vegetation, and fauna are vividly represented in early depictions, suggesting a world teeming with life. Gradually, as the climate shifted, these representations fade or transform, echoing a civilization's response to environmental upheaval. The artists seem to have chronicled their own survival, recording the rhythms of their lives and the world around them. Yet, even as we interpret these images as historical documentation, many aspects remain mysterious. Why were certain animals repeatedly depicted? What rituals or beliefs dictated the scenes chosen for sacred or sheltered walls? The artistic skill displayed at Tassili also raises questions. Figures are not merely drawn, they are dynamic, conveying movement and interaction in ways that suggest sophisticated observation and understanding of anatomy, proportion, and narrative. Some scenes depict coordinated hunting strategies, dances, or communal activity, implying knowledge of societal organization that predates formal records of civilization. The use of color is deliberate. Red ochre, charcoal, and yellow minerals create depth, shadow, and emphasis, revealing not only artistic intent but also an intimate knowledge of available materials and techniques. How did these early humans achieve such precision and complexity? Were these purely aesthetic choices, or did they serve functional or spiritual purposes that we can only guess at? Among the most enigmatic aspects of Tassili are the so-called astronaut figures, humanoid forms with round heads, large eyes, and elongated bodies, often depicted alongside unusual symbols or objects. Some interpretations suggest ritual or symbolic significance. Others propose astronomical or cosmological meaning. Could these figures represent shamans in ceremonial attire, visions induced by trance states, or an abstract record of events now incomprehensible to us? While fringe theories occasionally propose more speculative explanations, mainstream research emphasizes the human and cultural dimensions, reminding us that these paintings are a window into early human cognition, imagination, and social complexity. The location of Tassili itself adds to the mystery. The paintings are hidden in cliffs, deep within narrow canyons and under rock overhangs, places that require careful navigation to access. Was this positioning intentional for protection against the elements, or did it carry symbolic meaning, perhaps demarcating sacred spaces? The interplay between the natural contours of the rock and the painted figures often creates illusions of depth, interaction, or motion, suggesting that the artists were intimately aware of their environment and exploited it in ways that enhance the narrative of the images. These choices hint at a level of intentionality and awareness that transcends simple decoration. What makes Tassili so compelling is its endurance. For thousands of years, these images have survived wind, rain, and shifting sands, preserving a voice from the distant past. They invite us to imagine a world where humans interpreted and interacted with their environment through art, spirituality, and communal experience. Each panel, each figure, each stroke of pigment is a dialogue across time, a whisper from people whose language, beliefs, and lives remain largely unknown. How much of their understanding of the world have we lost? What stories, knowledge, or experiences are encoded in shapes, patterns, and sequences that seem at once familiar and alien? As we trace our fingers metaphorically along these ancient walls, we are confronted with the breadth of human imagination and resilience. The Tassili paintings remind us that the capacity to record, to interpret, and to communicate through art predates written language, predates formal civilization, and yet carries meaning that can still resonate today. They challenge assumptions about the cognitive and cultural development of early humans, suggesting a richness of life and thought that continues to inspire wonder and speculation. And so, as the desert wind sweeps across the plateaus and sunlight illuminates the colors preserved in stone, we are left with lingering questions. What rituals, beliefs, or knowledge guided the artists of Tassili? How much has been lost to time, hidden beneath centuries of sand, rock, and obscurity? And perhaps most profoundly, what does this collection of images tell us about the human desire to understand, interpret, and leave a mark upon the world? The cave paintings of Tassili remain a silent yet eloquent testimony to a forgotten epoch, a mystery that invites contemplation, imagination, and awe. From the windswept cliffs of Tassili, where human imagination painted stories that have endured for millennia, we now journey across deserts and mountains to a land of stone-carved cities and hidden valleys, the domain of the Nabataeans. Stretching across what is now southern Jordan, northern Saudi Arabia, and parts of Israel and Syria, their most famous city, Petra, emerges from the rose-colored cliffs with a quiet grandeur that continues to captivate the world. The facades of temples, tombs, and palaces are meticulously carved directly into rock, illuminated by the shifting desert light. Columns and niches, stairways and amphitheaters all hint at a civilization that mastered architecture, engineering, and trade. Yet for all their brilliance, the Nabataeans themselves seem to vanish from history, leaving behind only their silent stone cities. Archaeologists trace the Nabataean civilization to at least the 4th century BCE, flourishing as traders along vital desert routes that connected Arabia, the Levant, and the Mediterranean. Their wealth was legendary, derived from incense, spices, and luxury goods. Petra, the crown jewel of their kingdom, was more than a city. It was a carefully planned hub of commerce, culture, and spirituality. Ingenious water management systems, cisterns, and aqueducts enabled life in an arid region, demonstrating a remarkable understanding of environmental adaptation. Yet, despite such achievements by the 2nd century CE, the Nabataeans seemingly disappeared as a distinct culture. Their cities fell silent, their inscriptions cease, and the once thriving trade networks shifted to new centers. Historians suggest multiple factors that may have contributed to this decline. Roman annexation of the region in 106 CE, shifts in trade routes, and economic pressures from emerging empires. Yet these explanations only scratch the surface. How could a people so adept at survival, at engineering, at commerce, simply vanish as a cohesive culture? The scale and sophistication of their cities suggest a society deeply rooted in knowledge, collaboration, and adaptation. Was their disappearance the result of gradual assimilation, or was there an event, environmental, social, or political, that accelerated their decline in ways that left little trace? Petra itself offers both answers and questions. The city's most iconic monuments, such as the treasury and the monastery, were constructed with astonishing precision, carved into cliffs that rise hundreds of feet above narrow gorges. The facades reflect an eclectic blend of Hellenistic, Roman, and indigenous styles, suggesting cultural exchange and adaptation. Water channels etched into the rock, dams, and terraces reveal a society intimately aware of its environment, capable of controlling flash floods and sustaining a thriving urban population in an unforgiving desert. And yet, much about the Nabataeans' daily life, their beliefs, and their governance remains elusive. Who exactly were they beyond the traders and architects immortalized in stone? What motivated their artistic choices, their urban planning, their adaptation to such harsh terrain? Perhaps the most compelling mystery lies in the abruptness of their disappearance from the historical record. While their monumental cities stand, inscriptions and records fade. Later civilizations that inhabited the region, including Romans and Byzantines, adapted their infrastructure, but seldom preserved Nabataean cultural markers. Could it be that the Nabataeans gradually integrated into other societies, leaving behind only architectural testimony? Or might there be forces at play that remain hidden in the desert's sands, events or circumstances that archaeology has yet to uncover? The Nabataeans' spiritual and ceremonial life adds another layer of intrigue. Temples, shrines, and tombs hint at religious practices deeply intertwined with daily life and the natural environment. Some scholars suggest Petra was more than a trade hub. It may have been a pilgrimage center, a spiritual focal point that drew communities from across the region. Yet the precise beliefs, rituals, and cosmological understanding of the Nabataeans remain largely speculative. Were they influenced primarily by neighboring cultures, or did they develop a unique worldview encoded into the rock and architecture that we are only beginning to glimpse? Environmental factors also play a tantalizing role in the mystery. The Nabataeans thrived in one of the harshest landscapes on Earth, relying on precise knowledge of seasonal rainfall and water management. Could climatic shifts, prolonged droughts, or seismic events have disrupted this delicate balance, forcing migration or societal reorganization? Evidence of terraces, cisterns, and canals shows extraordinary ingenuity, yet even such advanced infrastructure may have proven vulnerable to dramatic changes. If so, their disappearance might be as much a story of adaptation tested to its limits as it is of cultural transition. There is a subtle poetry in the empty streets and silent monuments of Petra. Wandering through the narrow Sick, tracing the steps of traders, priests, and citizens long gone, one is struck by both their presence and absence. The city is alive in its architecture, yet the people who built, traded, and worshipped here have left only fragments of their lives. Each column, each carved facade, each cistern is a testament to ingenuity, but also a quiet reminder of impermanence and mystery. How did such a remarkable civilization fade, leaving behind structures that continue to inspire wonder yet provide only partial answers? As the desert sun casts long shadows over Petra's cliffs, the question lingers. What truly happened to the Nabataeans? Was their disappearance gradual, absorbed into surrounding cultures, or sudden, accelerated by forces now lost to history? What knowledge, skills, and traditions did they carry with them into the unknown, and what has been irretrievably lost beneath the sands? The mystery of the Nabataeans remains unsolved, a silent challenge to historians, archaeologists, and curious minds alike, a testament to human resilience, ingenuity, and the enduring power of the unknown. From the rose-colored cliffs and hidden valleys of Petra, where the Nabataeans carved their cities in stone and vanished into history, our journey continues southward along the Nile, to a land where pyramids rise not in the familiar scale of Giza, but in smaller, steeper forms that punctuate the desert horizon with quiet authority. Here, in what is now Sudan, lie the Pyramids of Nubia, silent monuments to a civilization that rivaled and at times preceded its more famous Egyptian neighbors. Stretching across sites like Meroe, Nuri, and Gebel Barkal, these pyramids cluster along desert plains and riverbanks, their sharply angled sides and compact forms giving them a distinctive elegance. From afar, they appear almost fragile, yet their endurance over centuries speaks to a mastery of construction, planning, and cultural symbolism that remains deeply enigmatic. The Nubian pyramids date primarily from the Kingdom of Kush, flourishing between roughly 800 BCE and 350 CE. At Meroe alone, archaeologists have identified hundreds of pyramids, many serving as tombs for kings, queens, and nobles. Unlike the broad monumental pyramids of Giza, Nubian pyramids are narrower and taller, with steep angles that make them appear almost to ascend toward the sky in defiance of gravity. Each was constructed with local stone and rubble, carefully faced with fine masonry, often accompanied by chapels, offering tables and carved reliefs that indicate ritual significance. The precision of their construction and their striking aesthetic provoke admiration and questions that endure to this day. The most immediate mystery of Nubian pyramids lies in their sheer density and variation. Why did the Kushite civilization choose this distinctive form, so different from the monumental Egyptian pyramids nearby? Was it a purely cultural or aesthetic choice, or did the steep angles serve practical, symbolic, or even astronomical purposes? Some scholars suggest the pyramids were designed to be visible across vast desert expanses, asserting the authority and divine favor of their rulers. Others propose that the design reflects cosmological beliefs, perhaps aligning with stars, solstices, or celestial phenomena in ways not yet fully understood. The combination of funerary function, symbolic architecture, and ritual complexity renders these pyramids far more than mere tombs. They are statements of power, spirituality, and identity carved into stone. The wealth of artifacts discovered within and around Nubian pyramids adds further layers to the mystery. Gold jewelry, pottery, inscriptions, and imported goods suggest a society engaged in extensive trade and diplomacy, with links stretching from sub-Saharan Africa to the Mediterranean world. yet much remains unknown. Inscriptions are often fragmentary, and the full meaning of ritual objects is obscured by time. How did Kushite artisans achieve such refinement in construction and decorative work? What knowledge guided their orientation, their proportions, and their placement within the landscape? And perhaps most intriguingly, why did such a vibrant civilization ultimately fade, leaving these pyramids as some of the few enduring markers of a once thriving culture? Environmental and geographical factors may hold part of the answer. The Kushite kingdom was centered along the Nile, its life and prosperity dependent on the rhythms of the river. Seasonal flooding, arid deserts, and shifting trade routes all influenced settlement patterns, resource management, and cultural development. The location of pyramids along riverbanks and desert edges reflects an acute understanding of landscape, water management, and visibility. Yet these choices also raise questions about sustainability. Did environmental pressures contribute to the decline of Nubian power? Was the eventual abandonment of sites like Meroe gradual, or marked by sudden political, economic, or ecological shifts that archaeology has yet to fully unravel? Cultural connections and mysteries further deepen when we consider the relationship between Nubia and Egypt. While the Kushites adopted elements of Egyptian religion, art, and hieroglyphic writing, they did so selectively, blending imported ideas with indigenous practices. Nubian pyramids often feature both Egyptian motifs and uniquely Kushite features, reflecting a society that was both influenced and independent. How much of their architectural style was inspired by Egyptian models, and how much emerged from their own cultural imagination? And what does this hybridization tell us about the transmission of knowledge, power, and belief across the ancient world? Even today, the Pyramids of Nubia retain an aura of quiet mystery. Their sharp silhouettes catch the light of dawn and dusk, casting long shadows across desert sands. The narrow passages within tombs, the remnants of offering chapels, and the scattered artifacts all speak of a people with sophisticated spiritual and societal systems. But their voices are largely silent, preserved only in stone. Who were the rulers commemorated here, and what rituals, prayers, or ceremonies accompanied their final journeys? How much of Nubian cosmology, mathematics, or engineering has been lost, hidden beneath rubble, sand, or the passage of centuries? Perhaps the most haunting aspect of these pyramids is their endurance in isolation. Unlike the heavily studied Giza Plateau, Nubian pyramids were long neglected by historians and explorers, their significance overlooked in broader narratives of ancient civilization. And yet, in their quiet persistence, they offer a window into human ambition, belief, and creativity that is both profound and elusive. Their very survival poses questions about the impermanence of human societies and the fragility of memory. Civilizations rise, flourish, and fade, yet stone and vision remain, offering tantalizing glimpses of lives, cultures, and knowledge that might otherwise have been lost. As the sun sets over the Nubian desert, casting the pyramids in shades of gold and rose, we are left with enduring questions. Why did the Kushites choose this distinctive architectural style? What secrets of culture, ritual, and engineering are encoded in the angles, orientations, and constructions of their pyramids? And perhaps most provocatively, what aspects of Nubian civilization remain hidden, awaiting discovery beneath sand, soil, and the veil of history? The Pyramids of Nubia stand not merely as tombs, but as enduring enigmas, silent witnesses to a civilization that mastered the desert and the river, yet left us only stones and questions, inviting us to continue exploring, questioning, and marveling at the mysteries of the past. From the Pyramids of Nubia, where desert sands conceal the remnants of a civilization both brilliant and enigmatic, we now journey across the Mediterranean to the rolling hills and fertile plains of ancient Italy. Here, Long before Rome's rise to prominence, a mysterious people emerged, the Etruscans. Their cities, carved into hillsides and bordered by rivers, were centers of commerce, culture, and ritual. Tombs adorned with frescoes, intricately crafted metalwork, and elaborate ceramics hint at a society that thrived between roughly 900 BCE and 100 BCE. Yet the origins of the Etruscans remain elusive, leaving scholars and historians pondering one of the greatest mysteries of ancient Europe. The landscapes of Etruria, encompassing what is now Tuscany, Umbria, and northern Lazio, are dotted with remnants of fortified settlements and necropolises. Among these, the tombs are perhaps the most evocative. Chambered structures carved from rock, often painted with scenes of feasting, dancing, and ceremonial activity. These frescoes capture moments of daily life and ritual, reflecting a sophisticated society with artistic, spiritual, and social complexity. Yet as much as we can discern from the art and artifacts, the Etruscans themselves remain shadowy figures in the historical record. Who were they, and where did they come from? The question of Etruscan origins has divided scholars for centuries. Classical sources offer competing accounts. Some, including Herodotus, suggested they migrated from Lydia in Anatolia, traveling across the sea to settle in Italy. Others, like Dionysius of Halicarnassus, argued that the Etruscans were indigenous, developing organically from the Villanovan culture of the Italian peninsula. Archaeological evidence offers both support and contradiction. Burial practices and material culture suggest local evolution, yet linguistic studies highlight a language unlike any neighboring Italic tongue, more akin to those of the Aegean world. How can a civilization emerge so fully formed in art, architecture, and ritual, yet leave behind a language that resists clear classification? The Etruscans' mastery of urban planning and engineering further deepens the mystery. Their cities, such as Veii, Tarquinia, and Cerveteri, were laid out with careful precision, with streets, gates, and public spaces organized according to social and functional needs. Water management systems, terracing, and fortifications reveal an advanced understanding of engineering and sustainability. Metalworking and craftsmanship in bronze and iron exhibit a skill that would influence neighboring societies, including the early Romans. Yet despite these achievements, the story of their rise and eventual absorption into the Roman Republic leaves gaps. Why did such a vibrant and sophisticated culture fade into obscurity, leaving only fragments of language, monuments, and inscriptions? The Etruscan language itself is among the most compelling enigmas. Written on tombs, ceramics, and votive objects, it remains largely undeciphered, resisting translation and leaving much of their thought, religion, and governance a mystery. Some words and inscriptions can be interpreted contextually, but the bulk of their literature, if any existed, has been lost, leaving modern observers to rely on material culture, tomb frescoes, and Roman accounts. Was this linguistic isolation a sign of a unique origin, a conscious cultural boundary, or merely the result of time and the loss of texts? Religion and ritual provide additional insight and additional questions. Etruscan society was deeply spiritual, with complex beliefs in the afterlife, divination, and celestial influence. Tombs were designed to mimic the homes of the living, suggesting a view of death as a continuation of earthly life. Temples and sacred precincts indicate organized worship, with priests interpreting the will of the gods through elaborate ceremonies. Yet much about their pantheon, their cosmology, and their role in society remains opaque. Did these spiritual practices originate locally, or were they influenced by contact with the Eastern Mediterranean and the wider Aegean world? How much of their culture was homegrown, and how much was borrowed or adapted from distant civilizations? Trade networks and material culture hint at wider connections. Etruscans engaged with Greeks, Phoenicians, and other Italic peoples, exchanging pottery, metalwork, and luxury goods. Yet, despite these interactions, they maintained a distinct identity, evident in tomb iconography, art, and societal organization. What drove this balance between assimilation and uniqueness? How did the Etruscans maintain cultural cohesion while participating in a broader Mediterranean world of trade, migration, and influence? Even the decline of the Etruscan civilization remains enigmatic. Rome gradually absorbed Etruscan cities and traditions, yet much of Etruscan knowledge, language, and religion vanished in the process. Some scholars suggest political conquest and economic shifts as primary drivers, while others point to internal social changes or environmental factors. Regardless, the disappearance of their identity from the historical record seems disproportionately sudden compared to the longevity and sophistication of their culture. How could a society so influential in art, religion, and urban development disappear almost entirely, leaving behind only monuments, tombs, and tantalizing inscriptions? Walking through the hills of Tuscany today, among tombs adorned with faded frescoes, one senses both presence and absence. The Etruscans' hands shaped stone, painted walls, and crafted objects with care, yet their voices are mostly silent. What stories, knowledge, and traditions did they carry into obscurity? How much remains hidden beneath centuries of soil, conquest, and cultural transformation? And perhaps most provocatively, what truths about the formation of early European civilization, human migration, and the evolution of language and art are encoded in the remnants of a people whose origins remain a profound mystery? The Etruscans endure in their tombs, in their cities, and in the shadows of history. They invite us to marvel not only at their accomplishments, but at the enduring enigma of human identity and memory. Like the Pyramids of Nubia, the Nabataeans of Petra, or the cave artists of Tassili, the Etruscans leave us with questions rather than answers, a challenge to our understanding of the past and an invitation to explore the mysteries that remain hidden, waiting to be discovered. From the rolling hills and tomb-laden landscapes of Etruria, where a civilization's origins remain cloaked in mystery, we now turn our gaze to the rugged Peloponnesian highlands of Greece, where stone rises from the earth in monumental silence. Here, above the fertile plains, lie the ruins of Mycenae, once a powerful center of Bronze Age civilization. Its most striking feature, the Cyclopean walls, dominates the landscape. Massive fortifications constructed from enormous irregular limestone boulders fitted together with astonishing precision. From a distance, these walls seem almost primordial, as though laid by giants rather than human hands, their sheer scale and weight evoking awe and wonder. The term Cyclopean itself comes from later Greek myth, inspired by the belief that only the legendary Cyclopes could have moved such colossal stones. Modern archaeology confirms that humans built them, yet how remains a subject of fascination. The walls date to approximately 1400 to 1200 BCE, forming a fortified perimeter around the citadel and controlling access through monumental gates such as the Lion Gate. The stones, some weighing dozens of tons, are placed with such care that they fit together without mortar, their interlocking shapes creating an enduring stability that has resisted earthquakes and the erosion of millennia. How did the Mycenaeans quarry, transport, and maneuver these boulders using the technology of the late Bronze Age? What knowledge of leverage, manpower, and design enabled them to erect such enduring fortifications? The construction of Cyclopean walls reflects more than practical defensive needs. They are statements of power and permanence, designed to project authority over both inhabitants and outsiders. The walls enclosed not only palaces and administrative centers, but also ceremonial spaces, tombs, and storage areas, suggesting a society that combined governance, religion, and protection in a single architectural vision. The meticulous placement of massive stones demonstrates a level of organization, planning, and engineering sophistication that continues to intrigue historians and engineers alike. Were these walls purely functional, or did their scale and presence convey symbolic meaning, an assertion of divine favor or royal might? Archaeological studies reveal a complex construction process. Stones were quarried locally, yet some blocks were transported over uneven terrain, requiring ingenuity and coordination. The fitting of irregularly shaped boulders without mortar necessitated both skill and intuition, with builders shaping stones to interlock in ways that absorb the stresses of weight and movement. The lion gate, adorned with a relief of two lions or lionesses, adds an artistic dimension, merging utility with symbolic expression. How much of this knowledge was standardized among Mycenaean builders, and how much was passed down through tradition or apprenticeship? Could there have been specialized teams with expertise in engineering that rivaled later civilizations? Beyond the technical marvel, the Cyclopean walls carry a narrative of human ambition and societal complexity. They suggest a city-state capable of mobilizing resources, labor, and knowledge on a grand scale. Yet they also raise questions about the Mycenaeans themselves, their social structure, their leadership, and their motivations. Were these fortifications a response to regional conflict, or a proactive display of strength to deter rivals? How did they maintain cohesion among workers and planners to execute such monumental projects in an era without written architectural blueprints? The walls are also intertwined with myth and legend, further deepening their allure. Homer's epics reference Mycenae as the seat of Agamemnon, king of kings, blending historical memory with narrative imagination. Archaeology has confirmed much of Mycenae's grandeur, yet the intersection of myth and reality leaves space for speculation. Could the legends of giants and heroic feats contain echoes of collective memory, a symbolic encoding of human achievement? And if so, what truths remain hidden behind the poetic veil, waiting for interpretation? Even today, standing before the walls, one is struck by the scale and permanence of these structures. The massive stones, weathered by centuries, evoke both awe and humility, a tangible connection to a people whose civilization thrived and eventually collapsed, leaving only monuments and mysteries. How did the Mycenaeans achieve such precise engineering with Bronze Age tools? Were the walls conceived as part of a broader urban and ceremonial plan? Or did they evolve over time in response to social and military pressures? Each question underscores the tantalizing gaps in our understanding. The Cyclopean walls also hint at broader connections in the ancient world. Mycenae was part of a network of trade, warfare, and cultural exchange that spanned the Aegean, Anatolia, and the Eastern Mediterranean. Some scholars note similarities between Mycenaean fortifications and contemporaneous structures elsewhere, suggesting knowledge transfer or parallel innovation. Yet the unique scale and style of the Cyclopean walls remain distinctly Mycenaean, a signature of their ingenuity and ambition. How much of their construction was influenced by neighboring cultures, and how much emerged independently, born from local needs, imagination, and resources? In contemplating the Cyclopean walls, one cannot help but reflect on the nature of human achievement and impermanence. The stones endure long after the collapse of palaces, societies, and dynasties. They speak silently of power, skill, and vision, yet the people who built them are known to us only through fragments, artifacts, myths, and scattered inscriptions. What motivated them to invest such energy and knowledge in fortifications that, for all their strength, could not prevent the eventual decline of Mycenaean civilization? What secrets of engineering, social organization, or ritual remain encoded in the walls themselves, waiting for discovery? As the afternoon sun casts shadows across the massive boulders, The Cyclopean walls of Mycenae stand as both a testament to human ingenuity and a profound mystery. They challenge modern observers to imagine the scale of effort, skill, and knowledge necessary to create them. They invite us to ponder the intersection of myth, memory, and history, and to wonder what other achievements of the ancient world remain shrouded in silence. In their endurance, they remind us that some mysteries persist not because they are unsolvable, but because they were designed to inspire awe, reflection, and endless curiosity across millennia. From the silent stones of Mycenae, where Cyclopean walls bear witness to human ingenuity and ambition, we now turn to a very different kind of mystery, one not written in stone but etched into the fragile records of human behavior. In the summer of 1518, the streets of Strasbourg, a city in the Holy Roman Empire, became the stage for a phenomenon that has puzzled historians, physicians, and psychologists for centuries: the dancing plague. What began as a single woman moving uncontrollably to some unseen rhythm soon escalated into a mass compulsion that gripped dozens and eventually hundreds of townspeople, forcing them into days and sometimes weeks of relentless dancing. The first accounts describe Frau Trophea stepping into the street in July, moving with a vigor and intensity that seemed impossible to resist or control. Within days, others joined her, their movements strange, jerky, and unrelenting. Town officials, alarmed by the apparent contagion, attempted to manage it in ways that now seem almost surreal. Some encouraged dancing in designated spaces, believing the body would recover through expulsion of the compulsion, while others resorted to religious processions and prayers to appease divine forces. Yet, whatever methods were employed, the dancing continued, leading to exhaustion, injury, and, in some cases, death. How could a community be so overtaken by movement, driven by an invisible force that defied conventional understanding? Contemporary records provide both vivid detail and chilling precision. Physicians of the time described dancers with flushed faces, sweat-soaked clothing, and pallor reflecting the strain of unceasing motion. Chroniclers noted the staggering number of participants. Some accounts claim upwards of 400 people at the peak of the plague. Their descriptions, though filtered through the lens of 16th century medical knowledge, convey the extremity of the phenomenon: limbs trembling, eyes wide with fevered focus, and bodies moving until collapse. Was this a mass psychosomatic event? A case of collective hysteria amplified by fear and stress? Or could environmental or toxic factors have triggered a physiological response beyond the comprehension of the era? Modern theories abound, yet none offer complete certainty. Some scholars suggest ergotism, a condition caused by consuming rye contaminated with hallucinogenic fungus, as a plausible catalyst. Ergo produces convulsions, hallucinations, and muscle spasms, symptoms eerily reminiscent of historical descriptions. Others argue for mass psychogenic illness, proposing that extreme social, economic, and environmental stress, famines, disease, and religious tension could have created a psychological contagion in which the mind imposed compulsive movement upon the body. Yet each theory leaves gaps. If ergo was responsible, why were only some townspeople affected? If psychological contagion explains the phenomenon, why did it escalate so dramatically, with participants dancing to the point of collapse or death? The context of Strasbourg in 1518 is equally significant. The city, like much of Europe, was reeling from famine, disease, and political tension. Communities relied heavily on ritual, superstition, and faith to interpret the unknown. Could these social pressures have magnified a minor compulsion into a full-blown epidemic of movement? Did the collective psyche, strained by scarcity and fear, find expression in a phenomenon that now appears both inexplicable and terrifying? And perhaps more unsettling, were there elements of the phenomenon that lay beyond environmental or psychological explanation, reflecting aspects of human experience that remain hidden even to contemporary science? Eyewitness accounts hint at the desperation of those caught in the plague. Townspeople reportedly begged for intervention, yet no remedy proved entirely effective. Musicians were hired to play in an effort to guide or exhaust the dancers, while public authorities attempted to confine the movement within city squares. Some dancers reportedly collapsed from exhaustion, while others continued for days. The persistence of the phenomenon raises profound questions about the interface of mind and body, individual will and collective behavior. How could entire groups of people act with such unity of purpose or compulsion without any apparent external coercion? The dancing plague also invites reflection on the nature of historical documentation. Records were made by clerics, city officials, and physicians, filtered through cultural and religious frameworks. As a result, the event is both vividly chronicled and partially obscured, leaving us to interpret a phenomenon that defies conventional categories. Was this a spiritual affliction, a neurological event, or a uniquely human manifestation of stress and emotion? And given its rarity and apparent sudden onset, could similar occurrences have gone undocumented elsewhere, leaving us only fragments of a wider pattern of unexplained human behavior? Even in modern times, the dancing plague resonates as a story of human vulnerability and mystery. It challenges our understanding of the mind's power over the body, the influence of collective behavior, and the capacity for seemingly ordinary circumstances to trigger extraordinary events. Unlike the stone walls of Mycenae or the Pyramids of Nubia, this mystery leaves no tangible monument, only written echoes and the enduring question of why it occurred. The streets of Strasbourg, once alive with frantic, uncontrolled movement, now lie silent, yet the images linger, compelling us to consider the fragility and complexity of human experience. As we reflect on the dancing plague of 1518, one is struck by the interplay of history, psychology, and mystery. What unseen forces, biological, social, or otherwise, drove dozens of individuals into days of relentless motion? How did fear, stress, and possibly chemical influence combine to create a phenomenon that is almost impossible to reproduce or explain? And perhaps most profoundly, what does this event reveal about the human condition? Our susceptibility, our resilience, and the mysteries that continue to arise at the intersection of mind, body, and society. The dancing plague remains unsolved, a haunting reminder that some events, no matter how well recorded, continue to defy explanation, inviting us to ponder the limits of knowledge and the depths of human experience. From the frantic streets of Strasbourg, where human bodies moved as if guided by unseen forces, we now journey northward to the mist-shrouded highlands of Scotland, where a different kind of mystery emerges. One that has haunted imaginations for centuries, blending folklore, eyewitness testimony, and modern investigation. Here lies Loch Ness, a deep, dark expanse of fresh water stretching over 23 miles, its surface often cloaked in fog and shadow. Amid these waters, tales persist of a creature elusive and enigmatic, known to the world as the Loch Ness Monster. The earliest accounts of Nessie, as it is affectionately called, are embedded in local folklore, predating the modern era by centuries. Scottish chronicles and oral traditions speak of water-dwelling beasts, serpentine figures glimpsed fleetingly among waves and reeds, sometimes causing fear, sometimes awe. In 1933, the first widely publicized sighting captured global attention. A witness claimed to see a long-necked creature moving gracefully through the loch. Soon after, photographs and reports multiplied, sparking a wave of fascination, skepticism, and fervent investigation. The narrative of Loch Ness became more than a local legend. It transformed into a modern enigma that continues to confound scientists, explorers, and enthusiasts alike. Loch Ness itself amplifies the mystery. Its waters are unusually deep, reaching over 700 feet in places, and dark, owing to peat deposits from surrounding soils. Visibility is limited, and waves, reflections, and currents can distort perception. Yet, even accounting for these factors, eyewitness accounts often describe something more than optical illusion. A living presence beneath the surface, sometimes moving with deliberate grace, sometimes leaving traces of turbulence on otherwise calm water. Could a large aquatic animal inhabit these depths, unseen by sonar and undetected by exhaustive searches? Or is the phenomenon more subtle, a confluence of natural forces, human expectation, and the powerful lure of myth? Scientific investigations have offered both insight and frustration. Sonar scans, underwater photography, and DNA sampling have cataloged fish, eels, and other aquatic life, yet no definitive trace of a large, unknown creature has emerged. Skeptics propose misidentifications, logs, waves, or groups of animals mistaken for a singular entity. Others point to hoaxes and exaggerated reports that have fueled public imagination. And yet, despite technological scrutiny, a fraction of sightings remain unexplained. Witnesses whose accounts resist easy dismissal, moments captured with clarity and conviction. What, if anything, dwells in the hidden depths of Loch Ness that might account for these persistent observations? The psychology of the mystery is as compelling as the physical environment. Loch Ness is a place where imagination thrives. The interplay of light, water, and weather creates fleeting illusions that can shape perception. Human memory and expectation amplify these glimpses, giving shape and narrative to what might otherwise be mundane. Yet one cannot ignore the cumulative weight of reports spanning centuries, across multiple generations. Why do people, separated by time and circumstance, continue to describe remarkably similar phenomena? Is it coincidence, a shared cultural construct, or evidence of something genuinely present, hidden beneath the loch's dark waters? Local tradition adds layers of meaning. Nessie is woven into Scottish identity, celebrated in stories, tourism, and community lore. Folktales describe the creature as both guardian and harbinger, a being entwined with the natural world and the rhythms of the Loch. These narratives, passed from generation to generation, provide context, symbolism, and resonance that extend beyond empirical investigation. They remind us that mystery is not only about what can be measured or captured, it is also about what captivates the human imagination, stirring curiosity and wonder. Modern encounters continue to defy straightforward explanation. High-resolution photography, sonar detections, and remote submersibles occasionally register anomalies, shapes moving against the current, large masses appearing briefly on sonar screens, objects too substantial to be dismissed as floating debris. Each of these events ignites debate. Are they evidence of a living creature or natural phenomena misinterpreted by human observers? Could there be an as-yet undiscovered species inhabiting deep, cold freshwater lakes, adapted to a life largely beyond human scrutiny? Or do these anomalies speak to the subtle power of perception, memory, and expectation intertwined with natural forces? Loch Ness is more than a setting. It is a character in its own right. The loch's dark, tranquil surface hides depth, complexity, and possibility, reflecting sky and land while concealing what lies beneath. Seasonal fog, wind-driven ripples, and sudden storms transform the environment, creating moments of ambiguity where perception and reality blur. It is precisely this interplay between human expectation, natural phenomena, and the unknown that sustains the mystery. Could the loch itself, through its scale, depth, and environment, be responsible for shaping and sustaining the legend of Nessie? As we gaze upon the waters of Loch Ness, it becomes clear that the mystery persists not merely because of what has or has not been seen, but because it challenges our desire to understand, to categorize, and to explore. It compels us to confront the limits of observation, the fragility of certainty, and the enduring allure of the unknown. What might remain hidden in the cold, dark depths, elusive, silent, and unseen? How much of Nessie exists as a creature, and how much as a symbol of human curiosity, wonder, and the persistent desire to encounter the extraordinary? The Loch Ness Monster endures in both legend and inquiry, a question without a definitive answer. Its story reminds us that mystery can thrive not only in remote deserts or ancient stone cities, but also in the living world around us, where human perception, nature, and imagination converge. It invites reflection, skepticism, and awe, an enduring puzzle that continues to capture the mind, challenge our understanding, and leave us peering across still waters, wondering what might be waiting just beneath the surface. From the dark, still waters of Loch Ness, where shadows and legend intertwine, we now turn to a mystery of a very different kind, one not hidden in the natural world, but encoded in ink and parchment, surviving centuries as a silent enigma. The Voynich Manuscript, a book of unknown origin, language, and purpose, rests today in the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University. Its pages, yellowed with age, are filled with delicate, flowing script unlike any other known writing system, accompanied by intricate illustrations of plants, astronomical diagrams, and enigmatic figures that defy easy interpretation. From the moment one opens its covers, the manuscript exerts a quiet, almost magnetic pull, inviting curiosity while withholding its secrets. The manuscript first came to modern attention in 1912, when antiquarian bookseller Wilfrid Voynich acquired it, though its history stretches back further. Radiocarbon dating places the parchment in the early 15th century, situating its creation in a period of intense intellectual activity across Europe. Yet beyond the parchment, almost everything about the manuscript remains uncertain. The script, which flows seamlessly across lines, has resisted all attempts at decryption. Linguists, cryptographers, and computer scientists have examined it extensively, yet no consensus has emerged regarding its language, cipher, or even whether it encodes meaningful content or a sophisticated hoax. How could a document so meticulously crafted with consistent rules and structure elude interpretation for over 6 centuries? The illustrations deepen the intrigue. Many depict plants that are unrecognizable, yet drawn with such botanical precision that they suggest careful observation. Other pages present astronomical diagrams, zodiacal symbols, and human figures, some engaged in ritualistic or inexplicable activity, often immersed in pools or flowing water. Some scholars argue that these images point to an herbal, alchemical, or medical purpose, while others speculate on connections to esoteric knowledge, astrology, or a lost scientific tradition. And yet, the absence of identifiable references to known species, celestial bodies, or geographic features challenges any attempt to situate the manuscript firmly within historical or scientific context. Could it be a compendium of a forgotten knowledge system, encoded deliberately to protect its secrets? Or is it the product of a mind, brilliant or eccentric, inventing an entirely new universe on paper? Efforts to decode the manuscript have spanned the spectrum of human ingenuity. During World War II, American and British codebreakers examined it for clues to hidden intelligence, but even techniques successful in deciphering complex military ciphers yielded little. Computational linguistics has revealed patterns in word frequency and structure, suggesting consistency and internal rules akin to a natural language. Yet no translation has proven definitive. Is the Voynich manuscript an unsolved linguistic puzzle, a constructed language, or a hoax of extraordinary subtlety? Each hypothesis raises further questions, forcing us to confront the limits of historical knowledge, cryptography, and human perception. The manuscript's provenance adds another layer to its enigma. It passed through the hands of alchemists, scholars, and collectors, including Emperor Rudolph II of the Holy Roman Empire, who reportedly purchased it for an enormous sum, believing it to hold esoteric wisdom. Such attention implies significance beyond mere curiosity. Yet, despite centuries of study, its purpose, practical, symbolic, or artistic, remains obscure. Was it a working manual for medicine, astrology, or ritual, or a private creation, a meditation in ink meant to be understood only by its author? The intentionality behind the manuscript is as mysterious as its content. Scholars also consider the psychological and cultural context. The 15th century was a period of exploration, discovery, and intense intellectual curiosity, where alchemy, natural philosophy, and proto-scientific experimentation intersected with mysticism and ritual. Could the Voynich Manuscript represent an attempt to synthesize or preserve knowledge that was considered too dangerous, sacred, or radical for general circulation? And if so, what knowledge has been lost, encoded in a script that no human has yet cracked? The manuscript sits at the intersection of art, science, and secrecy, reminding us that knowledge can be deliberately concealed, layered, and enigmatic. The physicality of the manuscript itself reinforces its aura of mystery. Its vellum, ink, and pigments reveal a painstaking process, with meticulous attention to detail that suggests careful planning and execution. No page appears hastily written or accidental. Each symbol, each curve, each illustration reflects intention. Who was the author, and what compelled them to create such a work? How did they maintain internal consistency across hundreds of pages, using a script unknown to the world both then and now? These questions echo across time, unanswered, tantalizingly out of reach. Despite centuries of examination, the Voynich Manuscript continues to challenge the human desire for certainty. Its pages evoke wonder, frustration, and awe, bridging the gap between history and imagination, fact and speculation. Some see in its script patterns waiting to be deciphered, in its illustrations hints of lost knowledge, in its very existence a testament to human creativity and mystery. Others see the limits of perception, a reminder that some artifacts are deliberately, or perhaps inevitably, resistant to understanding. As we turn the pages of the Voynich Manuscript, the question lingers. What knowledge, observation, or intention lies encoded within these symbols? How much of it reflects reality, imagination, or both? And perhaps most profoundly, what does the persistence of this unsolved enigma tell us about the nature of human curiosity, the drive to uncover secrets, to decode the unknown, and to confront mysteries that may ultimately elude explanation? The manuscript remains unsolved, a silent witness to the ingenuity, secrecy, and enduring fascination that history can inspire, inviting us to wonder, explore, and continue searching for truths that may forever lie just beyond our grasp. From the silent, enigmatic pages of the Voynich Manuscript, where centuries of human curiosity have been met with unbroken secrecy, we now journey across the Atlantic to the rugged shores of what is now North Carolina. Here, on Roanoke Island, history preserves a mystery that has confounded scholars, archaeologists, and storytellers for over 4 centuries: the sudden, unexplained disappearance of an entire colony. In the late 16th century, English settlers established a foothold in the New World, only to vanish without a trace, leaving behind faint clues that continue to puzzle investigators and ignite the imagination. The Roanoke colony, founded in 1587 under the leadership of John White, consisted of men, women, and children seeking to carve a new life on distant shores. The settlers built homes, cleared fields, and attempted to establish relationships with the indigenous peoples of the region. Yet within a short span, the colony's existence became tenuous. Supplies were scarce, tensions ran high, and communication with England was fraught with delay. When John White returned to England for reinforcements, a series of events, including the outbreak of the Anglo-Spanish War, prevented him from returning promptly. 3 years later, in 1590, he finally arrived back at Roanoke, only to find the settlement deserted. The houses were dismantled or decayed, the fortifications abandoned, and the colonists gone, leaving behind only a single enigmatic clue carved into a post: the word Croatoan. This lone inscription, seemingly deliberate yet cryptic, has fueled speculation for centuries. Some suggest it indicated a planned relocation to nearby Croatoan Island, implying cooperation or integration with local Native American tribes. Others propose far darker scenarios: attacks by hostile groups, starvation, disease, or internal strife could have led to the colony's sudden demise. Yet the absence of physical evidence, no graves, no artifacts conclusively linked to the colonists, renders definitive answers elusive. How could a community of over 100 people vanish so completely, leaving so few tangible traces behind? Archaeological investigations have revealed tantalizing but inconclusive hints. Artifacts unearthed in the region suggest contact between European settlers and local tribes, including items of English origin found far from the known colony site. But these discoveries, while suggestive, cannot confirm whether the colonists were absorbed into indigenous populations, migrated inland, or succumbed to misfortune in isolation. Could these fragments of material culture represent survival, adaptation, or a final, desperate flight from the coast? Or do they merely hint at movements that remain forever obscured by time and circumstance? Historical context complicates the mystery further. The late 16th century was a period of turbulence and uncertainty in the New World. European powers vied for control, indigenous populations navigated shifting alliances and conflicts, and settlers faced environmental and logistical challenges that strained even the most resilient communities. Within this framework, the Roanoke disappearance stands out as an anomaly, a vanishing that defies ordinary historical patterns. Was it the result of a convergence of misfortune, misjudgment, and circumstance? Or does it point to factors that elude conventional historical reasoning, aspects of human behavior, environment, or interaction that remain obscure? Speculation has naturally extended into the realm of folklore and legend. Stories of ghostly figures, secret survival among native tribes, and even theories of supernatural or extraterrestrial involvement have proliferated, each reflecting humanity's need to make sense of the inexplicable. Yet beyond the imaginative narratives, the core mystery persists. What truly happened to the Roanoke colonists? How could such a carefully planned settlement disappear without leaving a clear record of its fate? And why did the only message, Croatoan, provide guidance without context, insight, or reassurance? The disappearance also invites reflection on the fragility of human endeavor. These settlers, far from home, depended on limited resources, coordination, and knowledge of an unfamiliar land. Their abrupt absence underscores the vulnerability of even the most organized communities when confronted by the unpredictable forces of environment, conflict, and circumstance. Yet it also speaks to human resilience, the possibility that the colonists may have survived in ways unrecorded, assimilated, or transformed by the landscapes and peoples they encountered. How much of history is lost not through neglect, but through circumstances so absolute that the traces of human presence are nearly erased? Roanoke is more than a missing colony. It is a symbol of the tension between evidence and imagination, certainty and speculation. Each artifact, each historical record, each second-hand account serves as both clue and obstacle, offering partial insight while resisting conclusive interpretation. The disappearance compels us to question not only what happened on Roanoke Island, but how history is recorded, preserved, and remembered. How do the limitations of time, documentation, and human perception shape our understanding of events that were extraordinary even in their own era? Standing today on the sandy shores and grassy clearings of Roanoke, one senses both presence and absence. The traces of past dwellings, the echoes of a fledgling settlement, and the whispers of generations long gone create a landscape that is at once tangible and elusive. The mystery endures not simply because the colonists vanished, but because they vanished in a world where survival depended on courage, ingenuity, and cooperation. What lessons, warnings, or insights remain hidden in their story? And perhaps most hauntingly, what might still lie undiscovered beneath layers of earth, water, and time, waiting to illuminate a chapter of human history that has stubbornly refused to be written in full? The disappearance of the Roanoke colony is a question without a definitive answer, a historical enigma that bridges the tangible and the speculative, the factual and the imagined. It invites us to ponder human vulnerability, the forces of chance and circumstance, and the enduring power of mystery to captivate the mind. Like the Voynich Manuscript or the Loch Ness Monster, Roanoke reminds us that some enigmas are not merely puzzles to be solved. They are windows into the profound uncertainty of history, the limits of knowledge, and the enduring fascination of the unknown. From the vanished settlers of Roanoke, whose disappearance has echoed across centuries as a haunting enigma, we now turn to a mystery written not in absence, but in force. An event so sudden and violent that it reshaped the landscape of Siberia and continues to challenge understanding. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, the remote Tunguska region of eastern Siberia was transformed in an instant. Witnesses described a blinding flash, a concussive shockwave, and a roar that flattened forests across more than 2,000 square kilometers. Trees were uprooted, scorched, and bent outward in radial patterns, as if the earth itself had exhaled a tremendous force. The event left no crater, no conventional impact site, only a scarred wilderness that hints at the scale of what occurred. The Tunguska Explosion, as it came to be known, remains one of the most puzzling natural phenomena of the modern era. Eyewitness reports from nearby villagers describe an intense heat, tremors that shook the ground like an earthquake, and a sky filled with strange luminous effects that lingered for days. Animals fled in panic, rivers appeared to boil, and in the immediate aftermath, the region was eerily silent except for the twisted remnants of forests. Yet despite the devastation, no meteorite fragments of significant size were recovered, confounding early investigators and sparking decades of debate. How could such an enormous release of energy occur without leaving a conventional crater? And what form of cosmic or terrestrial force could account for it? Mainstream scientific explanations have focused on celestial origins. Most researchers today favor the hypothesis that a comet or asteroid entering Earth's atmosphere at high velocity exploded in an airburst tens of kilometers above the surface. The energy released has been estimated at 10 to 15 megatons of TNT, comparable to a large thermonuclear device. This scenario accounts for the absence of a crater, the radial pattern of fallen trees, and the extraordinary blast wave. Yet it leaves other questions open. Could the object have been primarily icy, dissipating almost entirely before impact? How did its composition and trajectory produce such a perfectly dispersed yet catastrophic energy release? Alternative theories have emerged to fill the gaps and challenge assumptions. Some speculate about rare geophysical phenomena, subterranean gas explosions triggered by seismic or volcanic activity, releasing energy in a sudden, explosive outburst. Others suggest atmospheric anomalies or interactions between celestial bodies and Earth's magnetic field, resulting in a phenomenon outside conventional meteorology or physics. Fringe theories even propose experimental weaponry or exotic energy sources, ideas that stretch imagination but underscore the enduring fascination with an event that defies easy explanation. What, if anything, might these speculative possibilities reveal about forces in our world that remain poorly understood, waiting for observation or interpretation? The remoteness of Tunguska has both hindered and deepened inquiry. Expeditions in the 1920s and 1930s found flattened forests and a sparsely populated landscape, but limited human habitation meant that few direct observations were recorded. Photographs, sketches, and collected eyewitness testimonies form the primary archive, each describing a moment of overwhelming natural violence. Even modern studies, using aerial surveys, satellite imagery, and dendrochronology, provide only partial reconstruction of the blast and its aftermath. How can a single, fleeting moment, mere seconds in duration, leave such an indelible imprint across both land and scientific imagination? The psychological and cultural dimensions of Tunguska are equally compelling. Among local Evenki communities, the event became embedded in oral histories, described as a sudden fire from the sky, or thunder that split the earth. In these narratives, the explosion is not merely a physical event, but a moment charged with awe, fear, and wonder. European scientists and journalists who later investigated the site were struck not only by the scale of destruction, but by the profound human response. Fascination tinged with disbelief, the sense of encountering a force far beyond ordinary comprehension. Could the way humans perceive such events through both scientific inquiry and cultural memory shape the narratives that endure long after the physical impact? The Tunguska Explosion also resonates with contemporary concerns about cosmic vulnerability. It reminds us that Earth exists within a dynamic solar system where relatively small celestial bodies, moving at unimaginable speeds, can alter landscapes and challenge assumptions about safety and predictability. Yet for all its modern relevance, the event retains elements of mystery. The exact nature of the Tunguska object, its composition, and its precise mechanics remain subjects of active debate. Each expedition, each model, each re-examination of tree rings and soil samples offers clues, but no final definitive answer. Standing today among the Siberian forests, where new growth rises from the flattened trunks of century-old trees, one senses both devastation and continuity. The landscape is scarred but alive, a testament to both the violence and resilience of nature. The Tunguska Explosion remains an intersection of awe and uncertainty, a reminder of how quickly the familiar world can be transformed and how little we truly understand about the forces that operate beyond human perception. What else may occur, unnoticed, beyond the reach of observers, in remote skies or hidden landscapes? How many events like Tunguska have gone unrecorded, leaving only whispers in time? And what might they reveal about the balance between order, chaos, and human comprehension? The mystery of Tunguska persists because it challenges the boundaries of observation, interpretation, and understanding. Unlike a vanished colony or an unsolved manuscript, it is a phenomenon of raw energy and sudden consequence, a demonstration of power that is both immediate and inscrutable. It invites us to consider the fragility of human perspective, the magnitude of forces that surround us, and the enduring allure of enigmas that are simultaneously observable and unfathomable. The Tunguska Explosion is a reminder that, in the vast tapestry of the natural world, some events are designed to provoke awe, speculation, and relentless inquiry, leaving us to wonder what secrets lie waiting in the skies above and in the wildernesses of our own planet. From the sudden, overwhelming force of the Siberian skies at Tunguska, where nature itself reshaped the landscape in an instant, we now turn to a mystery of human creation, an enigma of artistry, luxury, and disappearance that has captivated imaginations for centuries. The Amber Room, once hailed as the eighth wonder of the world, was a chamber adorned entirely with amber panels, gold leaf, mirrors, and precious gems, a masterpiece of craftsmanship and vision. Its walls shimmered with a golden glow, capturing sunlight and candlelight alike, transforming an ordinary space into a realm of opulent wonder. Originally constructed in the early 18th century in Prussia under the direction of German craftsman Andreas Schluter, the Amber Room was later gifted to Peter the Great of Russia in 1716, eventually installed in the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg. Over decades, it evolved, enriched by master artisans who painstakingly inlaid thousands of pieces of amber, each cut and polished with meticulous precision. Visitors marveled at the room's warmth, luminosity, and the ethereal quality of its amber walls, describing an atmosphere that seemed almost otherworldly, a space where material and light converged to create a living work of art. Yet despite its fame, the Amber Room's greatest mystery lies not in its construction, but in its disappearance. During World War II, as German forces advanced into Soviet territory, the Amber Room was dismantled and transported under the cover of secrecy. For years, the precise fate of the room remained unknown. Some accounts suggest it was housed in Königsberg, present-day Kaliningrad, and subsequently hidden in underground bunkers or mines as the war turned against Germany. Others propose that it was destroyed in bombings, while still more tantalizing theories claim it survives intact, secreted away in some forgotten chamber, waiting to be rediscovered. The absence of conclusive evidence has made the Amber Room a symbol of both loss and possibility, a puzzle that blends artistry, history, and wartime intrigue. The Amber Room's allure lies not only in its beauty, but in the meticulous detail and extraordinary effort required to create it. Each panel represents countless hours of labor, yet its disappearance occurred as if the room could vanish effortlessly. How could such a monumental creation, meticulously documented and widely celebrated, simply cease to exist in public memory? Investigators and historians have scoured archives, followed leads through Europe's forests and bombed cities, and examined wartime documents, yet definitive answers remain elusive. Could it have been destroyed in a fire, hidden in plain sight, or relocated to an unknown location? And if hidden, how has it evaded discovery for more than 70 years? Speculation has fueled countless theories, each layered with intrigue. Some suggest the room was meticulously disassembled and secretly stored by retreating Nazi forces, perhaps intended as a treasure for Hitler or his generals. Others argue it was transported eastward, possibly lost in the chaos of post-war displacement, or destroyed to prevent capture. Fringe hypotheses propose it was sunk into a lake, buried in mines, or even spirited abroad, now residing in private hands or secret collections. Every claim, every theory, points to the same central question. How could an object of such immense value, both artistic and historical, disappear entirely, leaving only photographs, drawings, and reconstructions to hint at its former glory? Efforts to recreate the Amber Room underscore both its complexity and its mystique. In the late 20th century, Russian and international artisans undertook the painstaking task of reconstructing the room using archival drawings, photographs, and remaining fragments of original amber. Completed in 2003, the reconstruction captures the visual splendor, but it cannot restore the intangible aura of mystery. The sense that the original room, like a vanished civilization, might still exist somewhere, untouched or hidden in shadow. This ongoing fascination reflects a broader human impulse, the desire to recover what has been lost, to bridge time through material culture, and to confront the unknown with creativity and investigation. The Amber Room also invites reflection on the interplay between human ambition, artistry, and the impermanence of even the most remarkable creations. It is a reminder that beauty, skill, and care are no safeguard against the forces of history. War, politics, and chance can erase even the most extraordinary achievements. Yet the very fact that we continue to search, to theorize, and to reconstruct speaks to resilience and hope. The possibility that the past can be reclaimed, at least in imagination, if not in physical reality. How much of history is truly lost, and how much awaits rediscovery, perhaps concealed in places we have yet to consider. Standing before the reconstructed Amber Room today, visitors can marvel at the craftsmanship, the luminous amber, and the intricate artistry, but also feel the weight of absence. The missing original casts a shadow over its modern twin, a reminder that history is not merely a record of what survives, but also a story of what vanishes, eludes, or escapes our grasp. The room's disappearance challenges us to consider the limits of human knowledge and the unpredictable course of history. What became of the original panels? Do they lie hidden, preserved, somewhere in Europe, or were they lost forever to the flames of war? And more broadly, what other treasures, human or natural, have vanished from our world, leaving only tantalizing traces and the enduring pull of mystery? The Amber Room, both as creation and absence, persists as a symbol of the fragile intersection between art, history, and human curiosity. It reminds us that mysteries need not be rooted in the remote wilderness or the deep ocean. They can exist in opulent palaces, crafted by human hands, and yet elude discovery for generations. Its story invites reflection, imagination, and relentless inquiry, compelling us to continue searching, questioning, and wondering about the treasures and enigmas that history may yet conceal. From the luminous, vanished grandeur of the Amber Room, where human ingenuity and artistry intersected with mystery, we now journey beneath the waves of the Aegean Sea to a discovery that has reshaped our understanding of ancient technology. In 1901, divers exploring a Roman-era shipwreck off the small Greek island of Antikythera stumbled upon fragments of a corroded bronze object, unlike anything previously encountered. What would come to be known as the Antikythera Mechanism lay silent for decades, its significance obscured by time, corrosion, and the passage of human history. At first glance, it resembled a collection of gears and plates, a jumble of metal that might have seemed mundane if not for the meticulous craftsmanship revealed under careful study. Subsequent examination unveiled something extraordinary. This device, over 2,000 years old, contained a complex system of interlocking gears, calibrated with astonishing precision. It appeared capable of modeling the movements of celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, and even the known planets over time. In essence, the Antikythera Mechanism was a clockwork representation of the cosmos, a mechanical computer capable of predicting astronomical phenomena and eclipses centuries in advance. How could a civilization, often characterized as technologically limited in comparison to modern standards, produce such a sophisticated device? What knowledge, what mathematical skill, and what craftsmanship were necessary to bring such a creation to life? The shipwreck itself adds another layer to the mystery. The vessel, carrying its cargo of goods, treasures, and this extraordinary mechanism, sank in the 1st century BCE. Yet only fragments of the device survived, corroded and encrusted with centuries of sediment and marine life. Reconstructing the mechanism has required painstaking imaging techniques, including X-rays, 3D scanning, and computer modeling, revealing a network of gears far more intricate than previously imagined. Some gears are small enough to require incredible precision to manufacture, their ratios calibrated to track the irregularities of lunar cycles and the Metonic calendar. Such technical sophistication, hidden away in a shipwreck, suggests a level of scientific and mechanical knowledge previously thought impossible for the ancient world. Mainstream explanations posit that the device was the product of Hellenistic ingenuity, perhaps the work of a Greek scientist inspired by earlier astronomical knowledge. Figures like Hipparchus or Posidonius have been suggested as possible creators or conceptual influencers, though no definitive attribution exists. The Antikythera Mechanism demonstrates a depth of understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering that rivals some modern analogs. Yet the absence of similar devices in the archaeological record raises profound questions. Was this a singular invention lost to history, or does it hint at a broader technological tradition, now largely forgotten, of which this mechanism is the sole survivor? Speculative theories have abounded, ranging from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some suggest that the mechanism represents the apex of an unknown Greek tradition of mechanical engineering, possibly inherited from earlier civilizations or even inspired by abstract mathematical modeling that exceeds our current understanding of Hellenistic science. Others pose more radical questions. Could knowledge of complex gearing, astronomy, and computational prediction have been more widespread than surviving artifacts suggest? And if so, what other technological marvels might have been lost to time, their secrets hidden or destroyed by the passage of centuries and the fragility of human endeavor? The device also challenges our assumptions about ancient society and culture. It was portable, yet precise, suggesting that it was valued not only as a tool for observation, but as a means of demonstrating knowledge, forecasting celestial events, or even asserting political or religious authority. In a world without telescopes, digital computers, or modern calibration instruments, the ability to anticipate eclipses, track planetary cycles, and synchronize calendars would have been nothing short of extraordinary. How did such knowledge shape society, influence decision-making, or inspire wonder in those who encountered it? The Antikythera Mechanism is remarkable not only for its technical achievement, but for the way it bridges human curiosity across millennia. It embodies the desire to understand the cosmos, to anticipate the patterns of the sky, and to translate abstract mathematical principles into tangible, functioning mechanisms. Yet the device also embodies mystery. Only a fraction survives, leaving scholars to reconstruct its functions and purpose from incomplete fragments. The precise methods of its manufacture, the identity of its creators, and the scope of the knowledge it represents remain partly obscured, inviting both admiration and speculation. As we contemplate the Antikythera Mechanism, it becomes clear that mystery need not arise solely from absence or loss, as with the Amber Room or Roanoke colony. Sometimes the enigma lies in presence, a tangible object, a marvel of engineering that defies conventional historical understanding and challenges our assumptions about what was possible long ago. What other ancient civilizations, technological traditions, or ingenious minds might have existed, leaving traces too fragile or rare to survive? How much of human innovation remains hidden beneath sediment, buried in shipwrecks, or dissolved in the passage of time? The Antikythera Mechanism stands as a testament to human curiosity, ingenuity, and the enduring drive to understand the universe. It is both a bridge to the past and a mirror for our own era, a reminder that knowledge can be both advanced and ephemeral, that human capability can astonish even centuries later, and that the mysteries of our world are often embedded in objects we can hold, study, and wonder at. And so, we are left with a profound question, one that echoes across history. What other secrets lie waiting, encoded in metal, stone, or parchment, awaiting discovery and the careful eyes of those who dare to look? From the precise gears and celestial calculations of the Antikythera Mechanism, where human ingenuity bridged the heavens and the earth, we now journey to a remote corner of the Pacific Ocean, where human ambition, artistry, and mystery converge in monumental stone. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, is a landscape dotted with hundreds of colossal statues, known as Moai, standing silently against the wind and the horizon. These enigmatic figures, some weighing more than 70 tons, gaze outward from their platforms, their faces solemn, their presence commanding. Carved from volcanic tuff and scattered across the island, they are at once guardians, symbols, and enigmas, leaving observers to ponder not only their purpose, but the means by which they were created and moved. The Moai were sculpted between the 13th and 16th centuries by the island's Polynesian inhabitants. Each statue, meticulously shaped, bears distinctive features: elongated noses, deep-set eyes, pronounced chins, that reflect a shared aesthetic yet suggest individual identity or lineage. Some stand atop stone platforms called ahu, while others lie incomplete in quarries, offering a glimpse into the creative process of a civilization capable of extraordinary organization and skill. The very scale of these figures challenges understanding. How could a community of limited population and resources transport, erect, and align such immense monuments across the uneven terrain of the island? The question echoes through history, inviting both admiration and speculation. Archaeologists have reconstructed plausible methods, including the use of log rollers, ropes, and coordinated human effort to move the Moai from quarries to their ahu. Yet no definitive explanation accounts for all aspects of their placement and alignment. Some statues were toppled centuries ago, possibly in internecine conflict or ritual, yet the scale of both construction and destruction points to a society deeply invested in the symbolism of these figures. Why were some Moai left incomplete in the quarry? What determined which statues were erected, where, and in what sequence? The lack of written records leaves these questions open, allowing the island itself to speak as both artifact and witness. The spatial arrangement of the Moai adds another layer of intrigue. Many face inland, overseeing the villages, while a few gaze seaward, as if watching over distant horizons. Some researchers suggest astronomical alignment, linking statues to solstices or other celestial events. Others propose they functioned as markers of clan territories, spiritual protectors, or ancestral embodiments. In every hypothesis, the Moai represent an intersection of practical, social, and spiritual significance, a civilization communicating through monumentality rather than written language. Yet the precise intention behind their creation remains elusive. Were they intended to channel power, inspire fear, preserve memory, or fulfill ritual obligations that are now lost to time? Speculation has naturally extended beyond conventional archaeological interpretation. Some fringe theories suggest external influence, proposing advanced engineering knowledge or contact with unknown civilizations to explain the precise carving, transport, and erection of the statues. While these ideas remain controversial, they underscore the persistent sense of wonder the Moai inspire. Even today, observers struggle to reconcile the scale and sophistication of these creations with the apparent limitations of their society. Could the statues' endurance across centuries be a testament not only to craftsmanship, but to knowledge, skill, or cultural practices that have no parallel elsewhere in Polynesia? The Moai also evoke reflection on the fragility and resilience of human endeavor. Easter Island society, which once flourished amidst abundant resources, eventually faced ecological pressures that led to deforestation, resource scarcity, and societal upheaval. The Moai, both monumental and enduring, serve as silent witnesses to this rise and decline, bridging human ambition and historical consequence. What do they tell us about the balance between creativity and sustainability, between cultural achievement and environmental constraint? How does a civilization's greatest artistic and spiritual accomplishments coexist with its vulnerabilities, and what lessons can these stones impart to observers across centuries? The process of carving, transporting, and erecting the Moai suggests a deep understanding of stone, leverage, and human coordination. The unfinished statues scattered across Rano-Raraku quarry hint at techniques refined over generations, possibly involving rolling, sledging, or walking the statues upright by rocking them forward. Yet despite extensive study and experimentation, no single method fully satisfies every aspect of the mystery. Could there have been ritualized methods lost to oral tradition? Were there symbolic meanings embedded in the very techniques of transport and erection, intertwining the physical and spiritual realms in ways that modern investigation can only speculate upon? Today, the Moai stand as guardians of memory, culture, and enigma. Visitors to Easter Island are struck not only by their sheer size and number, but by the aura of mystery that surrounds them. The island's isolated location, the apparent sophistication of its ancient society, and the unanswered questions about the Moai's construction, purpose, and social context make this one of the world's most enduring historical puzzles. What drove a people to devote immense labor and skill to such creations? How did they achieve technical feats that still inspire wonder centuries later? And above all, what stories, rituals, or knowledge lie encoded in stone, now hidden beneath weathered surfaces and the sands of time? The Moai statues, monumental and immovable, remain a testament to human creativity, belief, and ambition, bridging the past and present in silence and presence. Like the Antikythera Mechanism, the Amber Room, and the Roanoke colony, they remind us that history is not only what is recorded or preserved, but also what is left to wonder, to speculate, and to investigate. Their gaze, cast across villages and valleys, asks us to consider both what has been accomplished and what remains unknowable. They invite reflection, curiosity, and awe, a quiet challenge to uncover what may still be hidden in the interplay of human imagination, skill, and the enduring mysteries of our world. From the silent, monumental gaze of the Moai statues, we now turn to a mystery that fuses artistry, spirituality, and the seemingly impossible, a series of artifacts that have fascinated and perplexed scholars, explorers, and collectors for over a century. The crystal skulls are sculptures carved from clear or milky quartz, each rendered with striking anatomical precision. Some are life-sized, others smaller, yet all share a haunting presence. Hollow eye sockets, finely shaped jaws, and polished surfaces that seem to catch light and shadow in a way that gives them almost lifelike qualities. Found in disparate locations across Mesoamerica, their origins are shrouded in uncertainty, their authenticity debated, and their purpose mysterious. Reports of these skulls first gained widespread attention in the 19th and early 20th centuries, when collectors and archaeologists began to document their existence in private collections, often with vague or inconsistent provenance. Some claim the skulls were discovered in burial sites in Mexico and Central America, attributed to ancient civilizations, such as the Maya or Aztec. Yet the lack of verifiable excavation records, combined with the remarkable technical skill evident in the carvings, has led to intense debate. How could pre-Columbian societies, without modern rotary tools or advanced cutting instruments, carve such perfectly proportioned skulls from extraordinarily hard quartz? What techniques did they employ, and what knowledge did they possess about the properties of crystal that modern scientists struggle to replicate even today? Scientific examinations have revealed intriguing details. Under microscopes, researchers have noted minute grooves and marks that appear consistent with modern rotary tools, suggesting the skulls may have been crafted more recently than claimed. Yet other skulls resist such analysis, their craftsmanship defying easy categorization. The precision, symmetry, and polish achieved in quartz, a material that requires immense patience and expertise to shape, raises questions about the skills of their creators, the methods employed, and the intentions behind their creation. Could these artifacts be the product of a lost or unrecorded tradition of stoneworking technology, surpassing what we understand of ancient civilizations? Beyond their technical sophistication, the crystal skulls are surrounded by lore, myth, and extraordinary claims. Some suggest that they possess metaphysical properties, including the ability to store or transmit energy, influence consciousness, or act as conduits to knowledge beyond ordinary perception. Tales of glowing eyes, psychic resonance, and mysterious vibrations have circulated in books, documentaries, and oral accounts. While such claims are unverified by mainstream science, they underscore the skull's enigmatic power. Objects that captivate imagination as much as intellect, challenging the boundary between tangible artifact and symbol of the unknown. Could the mystery itself be part of the skull's enduring allure, a reflection of humanity's fascination with the intersection of material skill and the metaphysical? The skull's provenance adds another layer of intrigue. Many emerged through private collections and sales, often without verifiable archaeological context, leaving their origins clouded in ambiguity. Some were allegedly looted from ancient burial sites, while others surfaced under circumstances that remain unclear or contested. This absence of documentation fuels speculation about lost knowledge, hidden histories, or even deliberate concealment. Were the skulls sacred objects, ceremonial tools, or repositories of esoteric wisdom? Or were they simply expressions of extraordinary craftsmanship, their meaning transformed over time by human storytelling and interpretation? Scientific attempts to recreate the skull's precision offer further fascination. Modern artisans, using advanced rotary and laser technologies, can replicate their shape, but only with immense time, effort, and technical skill. The fact that some skulls exhibit details difficult to duplicate, such as subtle facial asymmetry and intricate interior hollowing, continues to baffle researchers. How much of their creation relied on unknown techniques, lost to history? And if the methods were known, why are there so few examples scattered across continents and centuries, each carrying an aura of mystery? Cultural and historical context enriches the enigma. In Mesoamerican civilizations, skulls were potent symbols of mortality, ancestry, and ritual. They appear in iconography, ceremonial offerings, and mythology, representing both death and the passage to spiritual realms. Could the crystal skulls have served a similar symbolic or ritual function, embodying spiritual beliefs or cosmological knowledge? Or do they reflect a convergence of art, technology, and mysticism, a deliberate attempt to merge material and metaphysical meaning in a form that has endured beyond memory? The allure of the crystal skulls lies in this tension between the tangible and the unknowable. They are objects one can hold, measure, and examine, yet they continue to evoke questions that resist definitive answers. Their craftsmanship suggests human ingenuity of the highest order. Their history, shrouded in uncertainty, hints at lost knowledge and forgotten traditions. They challenge us to consider the limits of historical understanding, the possibilities of ancient technological skill, and the enduring power of objects to inspire awe across generations. Standing before a crystal skull, whether in a museum, collection, or photograph, one cannot escape the sense of mystery. Its smooth surfaces, hollow eyes, and delicate contours convey both human skill and an uncanny vitality, as if the artifact itself holds memory or consciousness. What knowledge did its creators possess? What stories, beliefs, or rituals motivated such painstaking labor? And most compellingly, what other objects, technologies, or traditions have been lost to time, leaving only tantalizing traces like these luminous skulls? The crystal skulls endure as both artifact and enigma, bridging the worlds of history, science, art, and imagination. They remind us that human curiosity, skill, and the desire to communicate across time can produce creations that challenge comprehension and inspire wonder. like the Moai of Easter Island, the Antikythera Mechanism, or the Amber Room, the skulls prompt reflection on what is known, what is lost, and what remains to be discovered. They invite us to ponder the depths of human ingenuity, the mysteries of cultural expression, and the hidden chapters of history that may yet reveal themselves, waiting for careful eyes and open minds to uncover their secrets. From the enigmatic, luminous presence of the crystal skulls, where human skill and mystery intersect in tangible form, we turn now to an artifact of a very different kind, a small, unassuming object whose significance, if properly understood, could challenge our assumptions about the technological capabilities of ancient civilizations. Known as the Baghdad Battery, this artifact consists of a clay jar, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod, discovered in modern-day Iraq near the ancient Parthian city of Ctesiphon. At first glance, it appears simple, an artifact among countless relics of antiquity. Yet within its construction lies a puzzle that has intrigued historians, archaeologists, and engineers for decades. Unearthed in the 1930s by German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig, the jar measures roughly 5 inches in height, containing a rolled copper sheet encasing an iron rod. When filled with an acidic solution, such as vinegar or lemon juice, the combination produces a small electrical current. The discovery immediately raised questions. Did the Parthians, or another contemporary culture, understand the principles of electrochemistry? Could this jar, seemingly ordinary, have functioned as a primitive battery, capable of generating electricity long before the modern era? Mainstream scholars have debated the artifact's purpose extensively. Some argue it may have served as a simple galvanic cell for electroplating, perhaps used to coat small objects with a thin layer of metal. Others suggest it could have been a storage vessel, a ritual object, or even a coincidence of materials that happens to produce a current when combined with certain liquids. The lack of corroborating artifacts or textual evidence leaves room for uncertainty. If the Baghdad Battery was indeed used to generate electricity, how widespread was this knowledge? And why is there so little evidence of its practical application elsewhere in the archaeological record? Experimental reconstructions of the device have demonstrated that it could indeed produce a modest voltage, enough to electroplate a thin layer of gold or silver onto a small object. This realization opens a host of questions. Was this technology intentionally developed, or was it an accidental byproduct of craft and experimentation? Did artisans and metallurgists of the Parthian or earlier periods possess a sophisticated understanding of chemical reactions and electricity, hidden in plain sight within the archaeological record? The very possibility challenges assumptions about the timeline of human technological achievement. Speculative theories extend beyond conventional archaeology. Some enthusiasts propose that such batteries could have powered small devices or illuminated objects with primitive electric currents, perhaps even serving ritual or symbolic functions. Others suggest that ancient cultures may have experimented with electricity in ways we cannot fully comprehend today, leaving behind tantalizing traces that are easily misinterpreted. While mainstream archaeology remains cautious, these possibilities underscore the allure of the Baghdad Battery, a simple clay jar that invites us to imagine a technological sophistication seemingly incongruous with the historical period in which it was created. The context of the discovery adds layers to the mystery. Excavated in proximity to other artifacts, the Baghdad Battery was found in a jar alongside pieces of pottery, inscriptions, and remnants of daily life in the Parthian era. The artifact's surroundings hint at a civilization capable of advanced craftsmanship, trade, and cultural complexity. Could the battery have been part of a larger experimental or industrial practice now lost to time? Or was it a one-off experiment, a singular curiosity whose knowledge vanished with its creators? The absence of textual documentation leaves these questions suspended, offering only the physical object as evidence of possibility. Beyond technical speculation, the Baghdad Battery captures the imagination, because it suggests a continuity of curiosity, experimentation, and ingenuity across millennia. Human beings have long sought to understand, manipulate, and harness unseen forces, from fire to magnetism, from celestial motion to chemical reaction. This small jar, simple yet perplexing, represents that impulse in miniature, a tangible reminder that technological insight may precede its formal recognition, and that ancient societies might have explored realms of knowledge that challenge our linear narratives of history. The artifact also invites reflection on the limits of our interpretation. How much of history is inferred from fragmentary evidence, and how often do we underestimate the capabilities of those who came before us? Could the Baghdad Battery be one example of a broader tradition of experimentation now erased by time, war, and neglect? And if so, what other tools, devices, or insights might have existed, now lost beneath layers of soil, sand, and sediment? Standing before a reconstruction, or even an image of the Baghdad Battery, one feels a quiet tension, the hum of possibility, the allure of discovery, and the reminder that history is never fully settled. Its simplicity belies its potential significance, and its ambiguity allows imagination to fill the gaps where evidence cannot. Whether a deliberate electrical device or an incidental creation, it speaks to human curiosity and the enduring drive to explore, experiment, and extend knowledge beyond the obvious and observable. The Baghdad Battery, like the crystal skulls, the Moai, and the Antikythera Mechanism, persists as a symbol of unresolved history, a tangible object bridging the known and unknown, fact and speculation, past and present. Its story reminds us that discovery is not solely the accumulation of artifacts, but the contemplation of their purpose, the questioning of their origins, and the recognition that mysteries often endure precisely because they invite wonder, debate, and continued investigation. What secrets of technology, science, or human understanding remain hidden in the artifacts of ancient civilizations? How many other pieces of history, seemingly ordinary, might reveal extraordinary knowledge if we look closely enough? The Baghdad Battery endures as both curiosity and conundrum, a simple vessel imbued with the capacity to challenge our assumptions about ancient science. Its presence reminds us that the past is rarely static, that human ingenuity stretches far beyond the timelines we imagine, and that the allure of the unknown continues to inspire those who seek to uncover it piece by piece, question by question, across the centuries. From the quiet enigma of the Baghdad Battery, an artifact that hints at hidden knowledge and ancient experimentation, we move from the material to the inexplicable, from objects of human ingenuity to a story that seems to straddle history and legend. In the rural village of Woolpit, Suffolk, England, during the 12th century, an extraordinary event was recorded in contemporary chronicles. 2 children, a boy and a girl, appeared suddenly in the fields, their skin tinged green, speaking a language unknown to the villagers and bearing no knowledge of the surrounding world. The story, preserved in medieval texts by writers such as Ralph of Coggeshall and William of Newburgh, has captivated historians, folklorists, and cryptic enthusiasts for centuries, challenging our understanding of human experience, geography, and the permeability of reality itself. The children were described as healthy but malnourished, wearing strange, unfamiliar clothing. They refused to eat normal food at first, subsisting instead on raw beans, which they accepted reluctantly. Over time, the green hue of their skin faded, and they adapted to local life. The boy reportedly died soon after, while the girl survived and learned to speak English, eventually integrating into society. The chroniclers noted that their origins were unknown, though the girl later claimed that they had come from a subterranean land called St. Martin's Land, a place perpetually in twilight. This account, simultaneously detailed and bewildering, raises questions that remain unresolved. Who were these children, and how did they arrive in Woolpit? Scholars have proposed several explanations, attempting to reconcile the story with historical context. Some suggest the children were Flemish orphans displaced by war or famine, arriving in Suffolk with a skin discoloration caused by dietary deficiencies, such as hypochromic anemia, which can cause a greenish pallor. Others consider more metaphorical interpretations, suggesting that the tale may have been embellished to convey moral or religious lessons, or that it was a form of allegory, reflecting contemporary anxieties about outsiders, survival, and the unknown. Yet these explanations, while plausible, do not entirely account for the specific details reported. The green skin, the alien language, and the consistent narrative across independent chroniclers. The story also invites speculation that stretches beyond conventional history. Some researchers have explored the possibility of the children originating from an isolated community, perhaps subterranean, whose existence was unknown to the outside world. Others have proposed that they may have come from a parallel dimension or otherworldly realm, a suggestion that moves into folklore, myth, and modern speculative interpretation. While such theories cannot be proven, they underscore the enduring fascination of the account. It is a tale that defies easy categorization, resisting definitive explanation and inviting imagination to explore its possibilities. The village of Woolpit itself, with its distinctive pit-like depressions, adds another layer of intrigue. The name, derived from wolf pits, may have influenced the chronicler's imagination, providing a symbolic or literal landscape through which the children entered human society. Did the geography of the area inspire interpretations of their origin, shaping a story that combined observation, rumor, and medieval narrative conventions? And what does this tell us about how communities perceive anomalies? How the unfamiliar is interpreted, explained, or mythologized in ways that endure through centuries? Medical and scientific perspectives offer additional avenues for inquiry. Nutritional deficiencies, genetic disorders, or environmental factors could have produced unusual skin pigmentation or behavior, leading to the perception of otherness. Linguistic isolation might account for the children's initially incomprehensible speech. Yet, even these grounded explanations cannot fully capture the cultural resonance of the tale. The vivid imagery of green-skinned children, their mysterious origins, and the way their story persisted in historical record suggest something more than a simple misinterpretation of natural phenomena. It is a narrative that exists at the intersection of fact and wonder, history and legend. The green children of Woolpit also provoke reflection on human perception and the limitations of historical record. How much of the medieval world was observed, interpreted, or distorted through lenses of superstition, fear, and awe? To what extent do stories like this preserve glimpses of reality filtered through imagination, culture, and oral tradition? And even if the children were simply refugees or the product of unusual medical conditions, why does their tale endure, compelling centuries of retelling and scholarly inquiry? In contemplating their story, we are drawn to questions that resonate beyond Woolpit. What does it mean to encounter the unfamiliar, to confront beings whose origins and nature are unknown? How do communities respond to those who do not fit established patterns of society, language, or appearance? And in a world that often prizes evidence and certainty, how do we engage with accounts that straddle the line between history and mystery, reality and legend? The green children remain, in many ways, a mirror to human curiosity. Their appearance in the fields of Woolpit centuries ago challenges us to consider not only who they were, but how we interpret anomalies, gaps, and unexplained events in history. They remind us that even well-documented eras contain stories that resist explanation, that human experience is shaped as much by wonder and fear as by logic and evidence, and that the past may harbor enigmas still waiting to be understood. Ultimately, the tale of the Green Children persists as a quiet, unsettling mystery. It exists at the boundary of possibility, inviting reflection, investigation, and imagination. Whether historical fact, symbolic narrative, or a blend of both, it stands as a testament to the enduring human fascination with the unknown. And so we are left with the lingering question: what other stories, hidden in the shadows of history, await discovery or reinterpretation, challenging our understanding of what is possible and reminding us that mystery is as much a part of the human past as the tangible artifacts and chronicles we can study? From the enigmatic appearance of the Green Children of Woolpit, whose sudden arrival in medieval England straddled history and legend, we now turn to a mystery rooted in the ancient past, a puzzle that speaks not in words but in carved clay. In the early 20th century, during excavations in southern Iraq at sites associated with the Ubaid culture, archaeologists uncovered a series of small humanoid figurines, unlike any previously documented. These artifacts, often only a few inches tall, bear humanoid forms with unusual, elongated features, and in many cases what appear to be reptilian or lizard-like traits. Their eyes, almond-shaped and exaggerated, and the subtle detailing of their limbs suggest an intentional, stylized depiction. Some figurines even appear to wear helmets or elongated headgear, adding to their enigmatic aura. Dated to the Ubaid period, roughly 4,500 to 4,000 BCE, these figurines emerge from a civilization known for early urban development, irrigation, and complex societal organization along the fertile plains of southern Mesopotamia. The culture left behind extensive evidence of settlement, trade, and ritual, yet these lizard-like figurines stand apart, puzzling scholars who struggle to interpret their purpose. Were they objects of worship, symbolic representations, or simple toys? The unusual anthropomorphic and reptilian features resist easy classification, suggesting a belief system or artistic expression that may be partially lost to history. Mainstream archaeological interpretations propose that the figurines could represent deities, ancestral spirits, or mythological beings. In many ancient cultures, animal-human hybrids are not uncommon. They serve as symbolic embodiments of divine power, protective spirits, or archetypal qualities. Could the lizard-like traits signify adaptability, fertility, or other attributes valued by the Ubaid people? Or were they purely imaginative renderings, part of a cultural lexicon that combined familiar human forms with enigmatic, symbolic features? Even within conventional frameworks, the figurines demand careful attention, challenging assumptions about early Mesopotamian cosmology and religious practice. Speculative theories naturally arise, fueled by the unusual and unsettling nature of the figurines. Some researchers have suggested that they may represent encounters with beings of unknown origin, perhaps inspired by folklore, visionary experience, or even external influence. The idea that these figures depict literal reptilian humanoids enters the realm of mythology and conjecture, yet the persistence of their form, consistency in style, and widespread discovery across Ubaid sites leave room for wonder. What did the original creators intend to communicate through these figures, and why did such forms appear repeatedly in the archaeological record? The craftsmanship of the figurines is striking. Despite their small size, each demonstrates careful attention to proportion, detail, and expression. Some are hollow, others solid, and the precision of their form indicates skilled artisans familiar with shaping clay and firing techniques. This suggests that the figurines were valued objects, not casual playthings. Were they used in ritual contexts, perhaps as talismans or offerings? Could they have been part of a larger narrative tradition, telling stories of gods, spirits, or otherworldly beings whose significance we can only glimpse through these fragments? The context of the discoveries adds another layer of intrigue. Many figurines were found in domestic spaces, temples, and graves, suggesting diverse functions within Ubaid society. Were they intended for private devotion, communal ceremonies, or as protective symbols buried with the dead. The diversity of find locations hints at multiple uses, yet their consistent form raises questions about shared cultural beliefs, transmission of artistic motifs, and the persistence of symbolic language across centuries. Why did this particular depiction, human yet reptilian, hold such enduring significance? The figurines also provoke broader reflection on human imagination and the ways ancient societies conceptualized beings beyond the ordinary. From the Ubaid culture to the green children of Woolpit, humans have long grappled with the unknown, often encoding mystery and meaning into forms tangible and symbolic. Could the lizard-like traits of the Ubaid figurines represent an attempt to visualize other realms, spiritual entities, or abstract concepts that defy ordinary representation? Or were they literal interpretations of beings, experiences, or visions now lost to history? The answers remain elusive, leaving only the silent clay forms as witnesses to ancient thought. Modern analysis continues to grapple with the enigma. Technological tools such as 3D scanning, microscopic examination, and comparative study with other Mesopotamian art reveal details of manufacture, style, and function, yet the figurine's significance remains ambiguous. Each observation deepens the mystery. Were they purely symbolic, inspired by environmental or biological observations, or reflective of myths that merged imagination with reality? What cultural or religious impulses drove their creation, and why do they endure as artifacts that inspire curiosity, speculation, and even awe millennia later? The Ubaid lizard people figurines, like the green children and the crystal skulls, invite us to confront the unknown. They remind us that ancient societies possessed rich inner worlds, capable of producing objects of technical skill, symbolic depth, and enduring enigma. These small clay forms bridge the tangible and the mysterious, providing glimpses into beliefs, fears, and imaginations that are largely inaccessible to us today. And yet, in their silent gaze, we sense a connection to those long-vanished creators, a dialogue across time, framed in form, texture, and deliberate design. Ultimately, the Ubaid figurines endure as both artifact and puzzle. They compel us to wonder about the nature of early human belief, the boundaries of imagination, and the gaps in our understanding of ancient cultures. What inspired their creation? What meaning did they hold for the people who made them? And what other mysteries lie hidden in the archaeological record, waiting to reveal glimpses of human thought, ingenuity, and the ever-present impulse to engage with the unknown? The figurines remain a quiet but persistent challenge to our assumptions, a reminder that history is not only what is recorded, but also what remains to be interpreted, imagined, and explored. From the enigmatic clay forms of the Ubaid lizard people, which hint at symbolic expression, ritual significance, and the possibility of beliefs now lost to time, we turn to a mystery carved into stone, an enduring testament to human skill, imagination, and perhaps curiosity about forces beyond the ordinary. In the ancient city of Abydos, Egypt, long celebrated as a sacred center of worship for the god Osiris, there exists a series of hieroglyphic carvings that have perplexed archaeologists, historians, and travelers alike. These reliefs, etched into temple walls and granite columns, depict forms and objects that appear astonishingly modern, what some interpret as representations resembling helicopters, submarines, and even aircraft of various kinds. The carvings, located within the temple of Seti Wursh, were created over 3,000 years ago, yet their lines, curves, and overlapping images give an uncanny resemblance to contemporary technology. The effect is intensified by what appears to be a palimpsest, repeated carvings layered atop one another, creating hybrid shapes that merge traditional hieroglyphic imagery with forms suggestive of advanced machinery. Scholars attribute this overlay to ancient recarving, where one set of hieroglyphs was chiseled over another, producing the illusion of modern objects. Yet the precision and specificity of the resulting images continue to spark curiosity. Could these be purely coincidental visual artifacts? Or might they suggest that ancient Egyptians observed phenomena or conceived ideas that seem almost anachronistic to our modern eyes? Mainstream Egyptologists emphasize that the apparent modern shapes are the product of erosion, recarving, and the natural merging of symbols over time. Hieroglyphs were often subject to reinscription as pharaohs succeeded one another, and artisans would carve over earlier symbols to honor new rulers or deities. This process can unintentionally produce forms that resemble objects unfamiliar to contemporary viewers. Yet even within this explanation, the carvings retain a haunting quality. The outlines seem precise, deliberate, and strangely evocative, capturing imagination in a way few other temple reliefs do. Beyond the technical aspects of stonework, the Abydos carvings evoke deeper questions about human perception and interpretation. Why do certain patterns or shapes resonate so strongly with modern observers? Is it the product of pareidolia, the tendency to perceive familiar objects where none exist? Or does it reflect a deeper symbolic meaning encoded by ancient artisans? In Egyptian culture, symbolism was central. Animals, tools, and abstract forms conveyed layers of religious, political, and philosophical significance. Could these overlapping images represent symbolic convergence rather than mechanical replication? Or is there a message lost to time, waiting to be discerned? The context of Abydos enhances the sense of mystery. The city was a nexus of religious, political, and artistic activity, where the living honored the dead, the pharaohs asserted divine authority, and artisans explored complex symbolic systems. Temples, such as Seti I's, were sites of ritual, celebration, and recording of history, often blending myth, genealogy, and cosmology in their reliefs. Within this intricate tapestry, the carvings that resemble modern objects stand out, drawing attention not because they are literal depictions, but because they challenge our understanding of how ancient societies represented the world around them. Could these forms reflect observations of celestial phenomena, mechanical devices long forgotten, or purely abstract symbolic ideas that coincidentally resemble modern tools? Speculative interpretations naturally emerge from this ambiguity. Some enthusiasts propose that the images suggest ancient knowledge of flight, advanced technology, or even extraterrestrial contact. These interpretations, while not supported by mainstream archaeology, highlight the human fascination with anomalies and the urge to connect distant eras through recognizable forms. Whether coincidence, symbolic layering, or lost knowledge, the carvings compel reflection on the nature of evidence, belief, and imagination. What did the original artists intend, and how much of that intent has been obscured by time, reinterpretation, and the natural decay of stone? Scientific and archaeological analysis continues to illuminate the context without resolving the broader mystery. Detailed surveys, photogrammetry, and comparative studies with other hieroglyphic inscriptions confirm the patterns of recarving and erosion, yet cannot fully explain why the resulting forms so closely resemble objects familiar to modern eyes. The ambiguity itself has become part of the allure, a conversation across millennia between observer and artifact, between the known and the enigmatic, where certainty is elusive and imagination fills the gaps left by history. The Abydos carvings remind us that mystery is often inseparable from context. They are not merely curiosities. They are artifacts embedded in a rich cultural, religious, and artistic framework. They challenge us to consider the ways symbols can shift meaning over time, the ways perception shapes interpretation, and the ways humans have always sought to depict ideas, observations, and beliefs that transcend the ordinary. Could these carvings preserve a memory of technologies, phenomena, or visions now forgotten? Or are they an enduring testament to the creativity and ingenuity of a civilization whose symbolic language continues to captivate us? In standing before the walls of Abydos, one cannot escape the tension between what is known and what is possible. The carvings invite not only study but contemplation, a reminder that history often contains layers, both literal and metaphorical, that resist definitive interpretation. They challenge us to question assumptions about linear technological progress, about the boundaries of artistic expression, and about the persistence of human wonder across millennia. Ultimately, the Abydos carvings persist as both artwork and enigma, bridging the tangible achievements of ancient civilization with the mysteries that linger beyond our understanding. They remind us that even in the most meticulously documented cultures, there remain elements that provoke awe, curiosity, and a sense of the uncanny. And as we trace the lines of stone, overlapping, weathered, and enigmatic, we are left with the enduring question: what stories, knowledge, or visions were once encoded in these carvings, and what might still lie hidden, awaiting careful eyes and open minds to discern their secrets? From the intricate carvings of Abydos, where stone seems to whisper of visions and ideas beyond the ordinary, we move across continents and centuries to a mystery hewn from the very earth itself. In the tropical lowlands of modern-day Mexico, scattered across the states of Veracruz and Tabasco, stand the Olmec colossal heads, monumental stone sculptures that have long captivated archaeologists, travelers, and historians alike. Carved from basalt, some weighing as much as 40 tons and standing over 10 feet tall, these heads portray human faces with striking individuality: broad noses, thick lips, and deep-set eyes, each seeming to capture a distinct personality, a leader frozen in time, dating to the formative period of Mesoamerican history, roughly between 1500 and 400 BCE. The Olmec civilization is often called the mother culture of the Americas. Their influence extended across vast regions, shaping subsequent societies through art, religious practice, and social organization. Yet these colossal heads remain enigmatic, their scale and craftsmanship hinting at knowledge and labor far beyond what one might expect from a society operating without wheeled transport or iron tools. How did the Olmecs quarry these immense blocks of basalt, transport them over dozens of kilometers, and sculpt them with such precision? The practical challenges alone are remarkable, yet the deeper mystery lies in their purpose and symbolism. Mainstream scholarship proposes that the heads represent rulers or significant figures of Olmec society, immortalizing their visage in stone as a means of asserting power, lineage, or divine association. Each head's unique facial features may indicate specific individuals, providing insight into leadership structures, social hierarchy, and cultural values. Yet, despite extensive excavation and analysis, the precise methods of carving, moving, and erecting these massive stones remain partially speculative. Recent studies suggest that rudimentary sledges, rollers, and waterways may have facilitated transport, but the sheer logistical coordination hints at a sophisticated level of organization and communal effort that continues to fascinate historians. Beyond their monumental scale and craftsmanship, the heads also invite reflection on the nature of identity, memory, and symbolism in the Olmec world. Were they commemorative, serving as lasting reminders of leaders' authority? Or did they function within ritual or cosmological frameworks, aligning with sacred spaces, ceremonial centers, or the natural landscape? Some heads are found in isolation, others in clusters, suggesting intentional placement, yet the criteria guiding their positioning remain elusive. The deliberate selection of basalt, a material sourced from distant quarries, adds another layer of intrigue, suggesting both practical ingenuity and symbolic intention. Speculative interpretations expand the mystery further. Some enthusiasts have suggested that the head's features hint at connections with transoceanic contact, hypothesizing influences from African, Asian, or other distant cultures. While mainstream archaeology emphasizes independent Mesoamerican development, the distinct facial characteristics of the heads continue to inspire curiosity. Are they purely representations of Olmec individuals, or might they encode broader cultural narratives, mythologies, or ancestral memory? Could they, in some way, reflect an understanding of human diversity, political authority, or spiritual significance that transcends the practical and enters the symbolic or even mystical? The craftsmanship itself deepens the enigma. Despite the absence of metal tools, the Olmecs achieved remarkable precision in shaping basalt, producing smooth surfaces, symmetrical features, and intricate details such as headdresses, ear spools, and facial expressions. How did they develop such skill, passed down over generations, without leaving explicit records of technique? The absence of written documentation from the Olmec civilization adds to the mystery, leaving only the stone itself to speak across millennia. In this silence, we are compelled to study, interpret, and speculate, drawing conclusions from shape, scale, and placement, rather than text or testimonial evidence. The heads also evoke broader questions about the human impulse to memorialize and monumentalize. Across the world, from the statues of Easter Island to the Moai, societies have erected enduring forms to mark power, identity, and belief. What drives civilizations to expend extraordinary effort in the creation of objects that will outlast generations, even when the practical necessity is absent? The Olmec colossal heads embody this impulse, standing as silent witnesses to human ingenuity, social cohesion, and the desire to shape the landscape with meaning. In contemplating the Olmec heads, one is drawn to the tension between what is known and what remains speculative. We can analyze quarry sites, measure weight, and reconstruct transport methods. We can compare artistic style across sites and consider social hierarchies. Yet, we cannot fully grasp the motivations, emotions, or cosmological understanding of the artisans and rulers who conceived these giants. Were they acts of devotion, political propaganda, ancestral veneration, or something entirely lost to history? The ambiguity is part of their power. They resist definitive explanation while captivating the imagination, a dialogue across time between past and present. Ultimately, the Olmec colossal heads endure as a testament to human creativity, skill, and mystery. They bridge the tangible and the enigmatic, connecting the practical challenges of material culture with the intangible questions of identity, symbolism, and belief. Each massive face gazes across centuries, inviting us to wonder at the lives, societies, and minds that produced them, and reminding us that history is as much about unresolved questions as it is about concrete evidence. What secrets of Olmec society, artistry, and worldview remain hidden in the stones, waiting for those willing to look closely, imagine thoughtfully, and confront the enduring mysteries of our shared past?